It's cold in here. What the heck? Oh.
Should tell somebody that runs the buildings about that.
Okay,
Yeah, I know. Those guys are a bunch of sluggers.
call the meeting
Did you
to
hear
order.
me?
We ready? Call to order. All right, call to order. Instead of pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Love it. All right, Bill, go ahead. We'll make 45 seconds.
Couple things, this is being streamed to YouTube, so you are live around the world. Just remember that. That's because we're prepping for July, when any meeting in here that's an official public, open to the public meeting is going to be streamed to YouTube. So you're being recorded in like 3 different ways. Scott, Darren, and Judy, you need to finish up by 4 p.m. tomorrow your IT security and safety training. You've got multiple emails inside your county email box regarding that. If it is not done by 4 o'clock on Friday, well, do it over the weekend, and then Monday morning, we're shutting off your email. Darren, the small tablet that you've got on loan from us, we need that back to run some updates and do some security patches on it.
Okay.
So by the next council meeting, please bring that in.
Thank you. So, do you mind using the emails that we used?
We cannot do that for KnowBe4 because it is tied into the county email system.
Seeing us in a meeting, hey, we know you don't check your county email, you use your personal email, but you need to do this.
Just
and
send me a thing, whether they're
Yeah.
not, and then I'll send it out.
that. Yeah. That's helpful.
Get this training done.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the notice, so.
I just find it ironic that to do the training on internet security, you have to click a link in your email.
Then they ask you at the end, download this certificate.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm questionable about
Yeah.
that after going through the training.
So you might want to tell Patrick, because he hadn't seen any of these either.
He's already done.
Are you? what
He's already
training?
got this done.
Or you got yours? Or, so.
I don't even know what you're talking
He's
about.
asking-
Yeah, I have no idea.
No, you did the internet training as a new hire at the beginning of the year, right? The IT security training?
No.
All right, I will look into that.
And I came in once to get an email, county email, but
Yeah.
I could never make it work.
Okay, all right, come visit our office sometime, we'll get you taken care of.
By 4 o'clock tomorrow, right?
Well,
Or-
I'll look into the training part, but yeah.
Joel hadn't done anything.
I have no idea what you're even talking about.
Joel is the person that doesn't have a county email because he has said he doesn't want a county email. So he
Good.
doesn't need to do the training.
So
Thank you.
If people don't have a county email, would you just communicate in a different way to them so they know what they're supposed to be doing?
Right, Joel doesn't need to do anything because he doesn't have a county email.
Oh, so if you don't have a county email, then you don't have to do it.
Right.
But you can't.
Every now and then I
communicate
come
if
out
you
the right
have
side of
one,
things.
or- I don't get it. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Are you still operating off Morse code? Yeah, telegraph. Well, we lost our next item, Kevin. Yeah, we'll
We
come to
gained
that in
an
a second.
unexpected item and lost one.
Let's take these anyway, you can tell, take one of these. I've already got one.
Here it comes.
Good.
Got one.
So you have to have special training to get a county email.
I don't need one.
You don't have this memorized.
I got it already.
Actually, I believe he does have it memorized.
All right, Kevin, we're ready for you.
I believe that.
I
I believe that.
Why, thank you.
gotta hand out when we get ready, so.
We'll see.
Yeah, okay.
Summary.
Sir?
No, that's spectator. Bummer with these open meetings, anybody comes in. Hey, Judy. Hey. Good to see you.
Why can't I get?
You guys.
Well, last meeting I attended, we weren't allowed to even take notes.
Oh, what is one
Tell you what.
This is I did my best
With the attorney thing.
to pull information without, I'll have to probably sit down with Julie and Tim. This is first time him seeing it, but this is my rough estimate on where we're at with regards to building maintenance activities or maintenance activities related to our capital assets. Okay? The top box is basically a comparison between 2024 as far as what was appropriated and what the expenditures were. Okay? And the 4 funds they have listed there are the ones that basically were able to identify with some help from Teresa, that were identified as building related, okay? But I know there are other numbers in there like landscaping and stuff like that, which I just now seen coming under either CUMCAP or under economic development or something like
Do you
that.
know off the top of your head what the name of those funds are?
They're all related to building, it's either called building or building maintenance.
Okay.
That's the line item.
That's the line
actual
item.
funds are not.
The actual 1112 is the 1138 is CUMCAP.
Yes.
And 1112 is the economic development, okay? So, last year, which I don't know what happens based on these funds,
Hey, Kevin, sorry.
yes,
So these funds are eligible for building maintenance? Is that?
those are the things that have been used in the past to deal with building maintenance.
Okay, because yeah, CUMCAP's got a bunch of stuff in it.
A bunch.
And so does Edit. So there's a bunch of stuff in those funds. It's not just for building maintenance.
Right.
But it's allowable. Is that
These
what
are the actual items that
Yeah.
have had maintenance activities related to CapEx.
Do you see the
Spending.
35301
Do me a favor.
and the 43001?
Kevin.
Those are line items.
Put the title for 35301, 43001, 30, you know, I don't know if it's.
Yeah, I don't need
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I wish I
You
had
don't
This-
need to be sorry, just.
Quite literally got this
Fine.
finished there.
It's not, it's just.
Not a problem.
Yeah, yeah. I can go cross-referencing, I don't really want to.
Never. So, going forward, this will be a better, so like I said, total numbers, the total appropriations in 2024 was $165,000. The actual expenditures based on the actual summary that I did for 2024 was $115,631. I do see that the council did make appropriations to move some of the existing funds or underspend out to other locations, like for landscaping and things of that nature to cover, again, I don't know why Rumpke is in landscaping, but evidently we didn't have enough money to pay for our trash service. The current budgeted numbers are $185,000 for those 2 funds at the top. And right now, the expenditures were really just a little over $20,000. But if you look down at the table below that, it says 2025 maintenance pending. These are all the things that Tim and I and Ron have been going through that we're expected to hit the books this year. We have a 250-gallon water heater that is basically leaking water on the floor right now. Its estimated repair cost is anywhere from $50,000 to $60,000
Where's that at?
in the law enforcement center.
I just put a 50-gallon hot water heater in my house for $1,300. How, that's 5 hot water heaters, right? So if I put one in for $1,300 times 5, right? The price is $60,000.
Welcome to the world of commercial.
Wait a minute. I mean, that's just 60 grand for,
That's just, yeah, well, hold on to your horses.
38 grand for, okay, keep going, but I.
That was low bid too.
That was
That was low bid.
low.
Yeah, but are we getting ripped off from it? Jesus. Well, it's a commercial application, not many people can do that, so people can do that.
Okay, so we have I know that you had a discussion and allowed an appropriation change with regards to the health department to address their HVAC mold issue, but we do have a highway solid waste mold issue. The commissioners were part of that right now to basically go in, replace the HVAC systems and do what's necessary to just put proper ductwork in because it was not put in properly when it was installed. 37, that's just our portion. The other half of that is going to come out of solid waste. $38,000, okay? The Sycamore Valley building, that sits over next to the fairground between the exhibition building and Purdue Extension Office and the exhibition, or Mother's Cupboard, sorry. That needs siding. My estimate on that is about $10,000. I think that's actually low.
Yeah.
We are, since, I meant to miss an L there, but the LEC, the Law Enforcement Center, so Nashville is in the process of upgrading the sewers from gravity to pressure, so therefore we're going to have to move over. We have to provide the power to the sewer pump station that is going in there to drive the pumps that are going to be used. My estimate on that is roughly $6,000. That means running cable, underground cable from the Law Enforcement Center out to that pump. We just had in our last, was it the last storm? No, the storm before last. No, it was the last storm. The law enforcement had a generator, a CAT generator that's used to power the entire building. That generator was, we believe, hit by lightning, but could not be confirmed, so therefore could not process it under a claim. And it took a little under $5,000 to fix that generator. We have at the Law Enforcement Center, a boiler for heating that needs to be replaced. That basically heats the general areas related to the office staff and any of the other locations in that building because it's radiated heat. My estimate on that is $15,000. I believe that also is low. The highway solid waste estimate, there is going to be remediation, meaning we're going to have to go through and potentially do ceiling tile replacements, cleanup, mold removal. My estimate on that is $25,000. We have a seal coating that has to take place every 2 years on every parking lot that we have in the county buildings, excluding the sheriff's department is $5,800 to take care of all of those other parking lots, and it has not been done, and this is year number 2. So that has to be done every 2 years to keep the cracks from forming and going down the path. We are looking at having to replace or repair the pavement at the Law Enforcement Center. If you've been in that parking lot and look at the main entrance and the section going to the EMT building where the ambulance is housed and the second portion of the actual parking lot, along with where all the cars are stored, there are divots, large cracks that will not and cannot will be able to be repaired with regards to seal coating and filler on that. My estimate, which I didn't get a chance to get with Eric on this, is that it's going to be $20,000 in paving. The last time repavement was done on that actual parking lot was 5 years ago. The Historical Society, which the commissioners last year committed us to in order to take care of termite problems and actually fund the Historical Society with regards to the log jail here and those things, needs $25,000. So that totals to $209,800, which if you look at that and add it to what we've already currently spent, we were going to be estimated about $46,000 in the red.
How old is that law enforcement center?
25 years.
In pretty good shape for 25 years.
Any chance of getting money from CDC to pay for the log jail repairs since that is tourist?
That legislation passed, there is degrees of flexibility and creativity for that. Yes, I had actually thought about going before CDC and asking them to fund the $25,000 for that.
That's a legitimate expense out of the current statute.
Yeah, it's tourist.
But my concern about this, great, take $25,000 off, and I don't have firm numbers on the others, and if it's anything like the Law Enforcement Center bids that we had on HVAC, which came in at anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 over what we estimated in our budget, we are going to end up being short, and we're only in month 4 out of 12 in this year with regards to maintenance. So the question coming before the council is, the Law Enforcement Center is considered a go bond project. There is specific language in there that says upkeep and things of that nature to replace the HVAC systems, and I didn't look at it, but I don't think it simply limits or isolates the HVAC repair being only available for go bond. So my question is, what I'm coming to you is to confirm, I would like to take what we have with regards to the Law Enforcement Center and use those funds to offset these repair costs that I have before me at the LEC.
In my opinion, that's what it's for.
That's what I'm here to actually get the consensus of the council that that does fall under the purview of the bond.
That sounds like a Susan question.
Well, I would have to go read the read the language in the bond, and I think the language in the bond speaks specifically to the AC units. So, you know, technically, these items have nothing to do with the AC unit.
Well, I think we put in something also about.
Well, we need to go, we need to read the language in the note, to see what the language says in the note.
The company needs to approve it. That's why-
Right, I mean, it's not a big deal, it's not,
So
like
that's
we got the money to give you, so it's.
So this is just proactivity coming to the council to be engaged.
Where are we on the bridges?
On the bridges,
Yeah.
so we, in our meeting on Wednesday, announced that we have started the bid process for Country Club Road, Bridge 111 is what we refer to it as. That is in process. The bids will be received and open on the 16th of this month at the commissioners meeting.
Right.
Okay. Eric has completed with regards to the second most important bridge at Hoover and Upper Salt Creek. No, Sweetwater Trail. Hoover and Sweetwater Trail. We did get the CCMG for Country Club Bridge
Okay.
to the tune of, I can't remember, Tim, I think it was 923,000, in that nature.
And what's the percentage of the match?
The percentage of the match for them is 25.
Because it's what,
And we have the funds in highway and Cume, I think it's coming out of the Cume cap on their side for the matching side of it, for that bridge.
that one bridge?
That's correct.
There's two more.
So the bridge at Hoover, it has been basically, design work has been completed, right-of-way negotiations and all that stuff has been done. So that is in and waiting and pending queue for the second round of CCMG to open up. So that will be submitted as soon as that happens. And that will get us within the around $1.5 million allocation that's available for us to do. And we have the matching funds for that as well.
So we got two bridges knocked out.
2 bridges knocked out. Eric Burton is right now working with Aegis, USI Consultants, and can't remember the third company. The 3 basically working to get design bid information. We've asked anything going out that is going to be spend for us to have 3 quotes done, even if it is engineering services. He is competitive bidding the design on the bridge out at Valley Branch, Mount Liberty, that road next to the Pentecostal church, that's the bridge we're talking about, that first crossing. That's the next most critical bridge. And he is doing competitive bidding on the design work for that and already started. He's already had them out looking at it and is also going through and done our own measurements and identifying utilities and things that are going to be impacted by that work.
Cool.
The 4th bridge, which he believes if he can get flexibility, he's going to try and keep it. Right now, it's a crossing. And if you know, they understand the definition of a crossing is
Under 20 feet.
anything less than 20 feet is considered a crossing. That bridge, right now, it's not a bridge, it's a crossing, but it is similar to what's happening with regards to the bridge over here with Country Club, in that it has a sharp S in it.
Right.
He is trying to curve it or trying to straighten it so the road's not so curved,
Right.
because it creates problems with traffic flow.
Right.
And he is trying to keep it under the 20. He believes that if he can do that, he may also have the funds in the budget to repair that crossing.
Wow, cool.
Okay.
That's great.
Big bridge, bridge number 5, Elkinsville Road. Elkinsville Road is a huge project. He has and had NDOT come and actually, we had missed a filing date on actually to get considered for funding on that. He worked with our NDOT contact there and got, by the grace of God, she went through and helped us get that in so that we are now being considered for federal funding to replace that bridge.
That's the wooden bridge.
That is the
in
wooden
back.
bridge, yes, sir.
I've been on that bridge, right?
Okay, so that's the 5 critical bridges I've been shared with you countless times and that's where they stand. Reed from NDOT believe with their help, because they helped us get considered for at least the design aspects of that, relatively good. Matching on that federal grant, if we should get one, would be 20%.
Okay.
And the estimated overall project to replace the bridge, does not include the design work, is around $5 million.
Oh, for Elkinsville?
Yes, sir.
No,
That bridge out there,
Elkinsville is the road that leads to nowhere.
that is correct, but that is the only road that leads to the residents that are on the other side of
I
that creek.
know, I know.
The bridge,
When you
country
say
club,
it's the only road, what do you mean by?
that is the only way in and out
Elkinsville's a dead end.
people
road.
there, unless you want to go and spend money and open Combs Road.
Oh, that is
So because Combs Road is closed, those folks.
That is the only way you can get out of that area. For any, the 8 to, I think it's something, 8 to 10 people, the homes,
Yeah, there's not very many.
residences that are there.
And of those homes, those are probably summer homes.
Don't know. There are, I know there's a gentleman all the way back to the end of Combs Road. He lives there full time.
Right next to
Just
the
down the
gate.
road, there's another one. So there's at least 2 full-time
$5 million
residents.
for a couple of households.
And the only reason it's being considered for us is price plus proximity to federal and state ground.
But we may get some federal money to do it.
Yes.
Okay.
And if it does come, it's 80%.
So it still costs us $1 million.
We're going in, I have no idea what the projection is on the engineering cost. That cost that I gave you is just construction.
Yeah, I know.
How are they gonna manage to get people in and out while it's being rebuilt?
So are these all 25 projects?
Those are, the Elkinsville Bridge is not.
So that'd be a
It's
26.
targeted, he thought he might be able to, he wanted to basically start the process and get us in consideration for that bridge this year.
Okay,
It is likely targeted to be a 5-year project.
okay.
If they have to put up a temporary crossing to get residents.
So basically what's happening is they are again realigning the road. So what's going to happen is, the proposal currently is to shift that bridge upstream far enough to straighten that road, because it is, right now, it's in a blind, there's a curve there. Straighten it so that it ends up becoming a T intersection between Elkinsville Road and Blue Creek. Build the new bridge, leave the existing, tear out the existing.
Okay, answer my question.
Yeah, the only thing I would recommend is that, I think you, the 2 commissioners here, you guys are working on capital improvement. You just started the first quarter of your 4-year term. So I think it would be, who would be in the best interest of the county, for the council and the commissioners to look at the highway department and look at the revenue, look at the expenses,
Being done right now.
look at 25, 26, 27, and 28.
We're actually going 5 years, so we're looking at 30.
You're going up 2030. All right, so how do we cash flow those costs? Because my assumption is going to be going forward that you all are going to continue to uncover stuff that hasn't been addressed for a long time, that you're probably not even aware of right now. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, how do we cash flow that going forward in the future? And we might as well work on it now. So we're not reactive.
What we're trying to do.
I know you are. Thank you. You did a good job.
So, again, like I said, I wanted to come before you guys here with this rather than saying, oh, by the way, I need a bill, we need to pay these bills tomorrow. We have time on this,
Now,
so,
when do you need this money by?
again, we're not taking any action at this point.
No,
This
but I
is-
mean, you need it by the end of the second quarter of this year?
I would say we would want to try and get this completed before the middle of the year.
It's not like it's a lot of money.
The other thing on here, which I do not have on here, which did get mentioned in our meeting between Chris and Todd, was the pods. So if any of you have been in the jail, you know that the prison, willingly been in the jail, not unwillingly been in the jail, but willingly been in the jail and taken a tour of it. You'll see in the prison area, basically what is the self-contained units is how it's constructed.
What's
So
a
the-
pod?
That is exactly what that is. It is a pod area. So there are individual cells that are constructed, that are bolted together, if you want to call that has all of the activities with regards to water, with regards to shower, with regards to bedding, with regards to power, and all of those things. And on each one of those pods is a main valve that controls the water flow related to those that potentially need to also be replaced.
All right.
Okay, another question with the building issue. What's the use of our owner's representative that we felt was had value in this stuff?
Right now, the activity related to the LEC and the air conditioning unit replacement, that work, as confirmed by me in the meeting on Wednesday, was we're going to have a bid recommendation coming from DLZ.
All right. Scott and I were in a meeting at the jail. I think a number of people were there. I think Ron was there, whatever. But the owner's representative was there. I was made aware of things that nobody in this county has any idea, such as federal regulations. Every day you gotta secure the jail, things like that. You should put protection on the roof because they're gonna be up there so they don't destroy the roof, and then we have to replace that. Things of that nature. He also talked about, well, when you're up there, you should be up there every 6 months taking pictures, do a maintenance log, and have a spreadsheet for all your buildings that have this stuff. This is a professional way to go about it. I don't see that we are, any of you three or whatever, any of us are production managers. Why do we not use professional services in the situation is my question, to represent the citizens of Brown County?
What's your point?
Well,
Say it again.
Well, okay, here's the example. Here's the example. We had the issue where DLZ made a mistake at the courthouse. He came in, talked to him, had Jerry call DLZ, said, we're not paying $23,000. Cost us $200. He charges $100 an hour. We make $23,000. Somebody gave half of it back, which I have no idea why. And basically, as a businessman, that tells me from a previous experience we had with another provider, that they say they can play Brown County as they want to, because we don't have any professional representative to push back. That's my concern. Why do it that way? Why don't we have someone who's representative, who can represent us? And Veritas said we should have that.
okay, the council
I got
can
a
have that.
Yeah.
Well,
We, the council, can have a professional advisor.
Susan, didn't we write something in the bond ordinance that, language pertaining to that?
Yes.
Wow, yes, I'm so sorry. Something got very loud on my phone here. So yes, there is some language in your bond trust indenture that talks about an owner's representative and having an owner's representative, especially, I believe it was especially on the HVAC system, if I remember correctly, but that's just going off memory right now. We went back and forth, and yes, Mike Moga did put that in to your trust indenture.
So, why don't we use them?
Not to discuss that. I don't have an answer.
Well, actually, it said in the document also said he would be paid out of the go bond. So it doesn't come out of our budget. Go ahead. I've got to tell you, let's keep it that way.
Wow, yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that.
What?
Oh, let me take a picture, hold on. No, you're speechless.
If the council, as the council body, would like, what do you call this person?
Owner's representative.
If the council's responsible for providing the funding for projects, capital improvement projects.
Yeah.
We have, the commissioners have got their people that they work with, and we ought to have our people.
Right.
Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't we have the owner's representative, right,
Is of the council.
of the council,
So to keep track of our money and the use of our
to
money.
make sure we're making really smart decisions with our money?
Well, we're not making those decisions, but somebody.
Well, we have to fund it. See, they can do whatever they want to do and ask for, everybody can ask for as much as they want, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the council making the decision as to whether we want to pay for it.
As it pertains to capital improvement in the past.
That's right, yeah, and so to me, just for the council to protect itself, because I don't know anything about it, I don't know what I don't know, right? To have, a on call,
Well,
and we put a line item in our budget, and we fund him, and we use the guy to, just to make sure that it holds us all accountable, because it's accountability, to make sure we don't let anything slip through the cracks, right?
I don't care
So
how it happens, as long as we're holding objective accountability to the citizens of Brown
Right.
County in a professional
And
manner.
all I'm saying is,
We're
the
bunch of
council,
backyard mechanics at the best we could do.
ask Susan, but I would assume the council, I mean, the council's the one that A, hired Susan Beavers, and B, we hired Reed Financial.
Right.
So if the council wants to hire another part-time, inexpensive, what do you call it? Owner's representative, then I don't see what the big deal is.
And we could have the owner's representative also.
And he reports to us, and you guys work together, and we make sure we just work together and make sure we're not letting anything slip through the cracks. Because the other thing too, and I think that's, to me, and, keep in mind, I'm a private sector, free market capitalist, tax-paying resident. I am not a politician. Matter of fact, I'm not a politician. I'm just some guy that wanted to have a voice, all right? And when I see, as a taxpayer, $60,000 for 250-gallon hot water heater, I mean, really? I mean, and this isn't anything pointed at any of you all. It's like, what's next? Is the toilet paper $300 a roll? I mean, because I kind of, from an outsider, I look at this and I see that the private sector comes in and preys on municipalities and they exploit the municipalities. So if hiring your owner's representative would keep us from being exploited by the private sector that wants to swoop in and say, hey, we'll just go ahead and bid this crap at 60 grand for a 500-gallon hot water heater. I mean, the guy can save some money. Because when I see that, it's like, and then, of course, and then what we do is we assume, well, it's commercial, right? And we need to be careful with what our assumptions are. Maybe our assumptions
I'm
are
not making an
wrong.
assumption saying that's correct.
And I think it's 60 grand for a hot water heater. Can you imagine if somebody came in, if I took that?
Well, okay, part of it, he looked at the plans for the courthouse when we revised, he says, you're getting a Cadillac, you only need a Chevy. You're paying an extra $100,000 to $200,000.
Then put it.
We don't know that stuff.
Put it on the agenda in a regular meeting and then let's discuss it and let's make a decision.
As long as that's how it goes, I don't know what
I mean, I
happens.
don't know why we can't do that. What's the big deal?
I don't know, after the money's.
Well, we've thrown away 30 grand a year on the RDC for years, right? So I mean, to me, that could potentially save us a lot of money.
So would it be able to be paid out of the GO bond, as it's been specified in the GO
Why
bond?
wouldn't we just put a line item in there and allocate some money out of the general fund for that expense?
Tell me if it works, if everyone thinks it works, then
Whatever, that's what we do.
I think it,
Take it out of the GO bond, because the GO bonds, the language is always already in that GO bond. And the other thing is, we don't use some of that money can be paid back early. We don't have to settle that 4 million. I believe, correct, Susan? And if let's say we only need 3 million, we cut a check and pay it back to the owner of the bond, right?
Yeah, I mean, typically you would refund that into your next bond, and right, if there's money left over that you're not going to spend, you would kind of refund that into the next bond that you do and work with it that way. But that's a planning thing with bond counsel of whether you're going to do that or not. It's not just, hey, let's make an extra mortgage payment. That doesn't quite get it with the bond.
Okay, all right.
So, but there is an opportunity.
Yeah, and just as a disclosure, for me, as a council member, first and foremost is how do we get ourselves back from a AA- to a AAA credit rating? So everything that we need to be doing, is that in alignment with getting us back with the S&P to a AAA credit rating instead of this AA-? So, I don't know what you guys' personal FICO scores are, but credit ratings are.
So the only thing at this point that I can communicate is that I will raise this during our next administrative meeting, which is Tuesday next week. We have one every week. And we'll bring it forth I'll bring it forth as a topic of discussion.
yeah, there's historically been tending to be reliance upon DLC. That's like, to me, is like having the fox manage the hen house. It's like, they have their interests, I'm not saying they're perfect, whatever, they have their interests. We found out that another firm had their interest, but maybe we're out of our interest, cost us $153,000.
Well, the private sector's gaming municipalities, bottom line.
Why wouldn't
Come
they?
on.
That's as
So,
easy.
again,
That's AIC, the private sector.
Again, going
It's
forth
supposed to be
on,
more professional.
Right.
going forth on this, is there are already steps being taken in the discussions that we've had by actually taking something with regards to services that is a line item, which you've heard countless times in countless meetings. Mike Magner and others sitting there saying, as long as it's less than this, I don't have to go and get a competitive quote. We're in agreement that we need to be competitive bidding a lot of the things that we do.
Yeah, I don't want to get ripped off.
For example, I didn't simply take we did not simply take the seal coating. The total seal coating, if you included what the jail was going to be $13,000, okay? Because basically you have 1.1 acres of asphalt at the jail.
Is that what it is?
Yes, okay? And everybody thinks, that's just the parking lot. No, it's the road that goes around to the back that feeds the generator. It's the parking side that houses the cars. It is the tape apron that goes off to the EMT. It's roughly 1.1. That is being so I and others, we had that as one of our discussions and said, we will go get 2 additional quotes. So we have 2 additional quotes from Hart, one coming from Hart Paving, one coming from Smith Paving. And actually, I've asked both of those companies to also give us the estimated cost with regards to pavement repair. Again, we're going to do this wisely because there's going to be construction work that has to take place. We are not going to touch that parking lot until that work happens. I do not want to have a 30,000-ton crane sitting on asphalt that's brand new and paved. It's going to have to happen with regards to lifting those units onto that building. Okay? So we're putting thought into this going forth. All right? So that's how that's happening. So slowly but surely, again, putting this together, coming forth, asking the questions. I just need basically feedback to say, if you're all right with these being considered, if you need to go back and look at the language. When I read it, it didn't specifically stipulate that it was just HVAC. It said other items as necessary on each one of those projects. So, but this is just an information. We're here. This is where we're struggling. You asked the question as to why we weren't trying to cover the $50,000 due to the HVAC system. This is why. At the health department.
Question. 4 million, 2 million of the 4 million was for the prosecuting attorney's office. Where are we on that? Does that need to be done or no?
So the prosecuting attorney's office, Ron is still recommending that we core the parking lot to make sure that there is nothing as far as environmentally hazardous.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
That's been done. I have been, I've discussed with the other 2 commissioners considering looking at, because I was approached by the town of Nashville considering swapping facilities with regards to the Nashville Police Department as far as exchange of buildings, but nothing's been pulled forth on that. So we're looking at several different options on this, okay?
And we can't purchase buildings out of the go bond. Can't purchase. It's available, but can't purchase.
That's correct. I have had that confirmed by Barnes and Thorne bringing the read of that. We cannot buy an asset, but we can improve an asset.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
So a heads up too, is seal coating as it relates to this, so we're kind of holding off to see where the coring, if that needs to take place, before we do anything with that parking lot down there. So I've already had a conversation with Ted Adams, explained to him that, asked him, hey Ted, we don't want to necessarily seal coat this yet because of this activity. He's just asked to have it striped, so we'll look at what happens with that.
I want to bring up this about the owner's rep. I know the guy, so I brought him in. I want to be clear in terms of you guys make the decision, that it's not me trying to get somebody in there. I could care less if he gets any work. Everybody stands on their own feet. I don't care if somebody's grandmother brings them in. If they perform the job, I'm happy, period. That's what it's based upon. Now, the other thing he had mentioned about, for instance, the DLZ, when their contracts, when they do a contract, DLZ says, I'll show up, I think it was twice a month. It's like, no, we looked at the brickwork on the jail, and DLZ did that twice a month or so. It wasn't the greatest brickwork, let's put it that way. So these are things where we need more oversight, professional oversight. Those are just issues that we can manage our county better. And so, yeah, go ahead, Scott.
So, you're here really to talk about the GO bond, it sounds like, and to pay for maintenance expenses out of that. And I don't like that. I like the GO bond for capital long-term expenses. If we're gonna take on debt, I don't wanna put tires on cars and change the oil in vehicles with it. I understand you've got a budget deficit, but you're gonna hear me say a lot this year, which is find it in your own budget. $45,000 in the first quarter of the year. We're already being asked to take out debt to cover maintenance expenses for items that have could have been foreseen for 20 years in advance, I'm a no.
Well, see, okay, what you're saying there, that's what the owner's rep said. He says, you guys put a spreadsheet together that says, here's your maintenance track down the building. You know years in advance, this is coming, let's deal with it.
Well, and then
We don't have that.
to add to that, we don't see a capital plan here. The GO bond is for capital projects. It sounds like half the GO bond has not been allocated by the commissioners yet for a project. What I don't want to see is at the end of this year, we end up filling up $2 million in projects and debt for things that are just like, oh, let's throw this in there, that in there, this in there, and the long-term investment value of that debt goes away. In other words, without a capital plan and without a GO bond plan, I don't think the council should be making any decisions about using debt to fund anything until we know what all of our needs are.
I agree with that one, but we have the GO bond that we can pay capital projects out of. We have the general fund that we can allocate to pay capital projects out of. We also have health insurance for 150 some employees. 174 that cannot be paid from the GO bond.
Yep.
That we have to have some kind of cushion in the general fund to pay for. So if we can pay for things out of the GO bond, it should be so that we have the cushion in the general fund to be able to come up, to be able to address some emergency situation that comes up that we can't pay for out of the GO bond.
Well, and I think you're right. I mean, and without a capital plan, knowing what our needs
I agree.
are,
We need a capital
we
plan.
can't decide where the funds can come from, where they need to go. I mean, we're going to be spending money ahead of those kind of more due diligence on projects that are lower priority, that should be done without debt, in a different way within the budget that we have appropriated, which we increased to 20,000 this year over last year. So, I mean, this is a very small piece of the information we should be looking at to make these kind of decisions, I guess.
Well, I agree with you, and the issue is when will we get our act together? In a sense, we're coming out of that management by what I would refer as crisis and chaos. That's how we've done it for years. When are we going to get together and say, what's the replacement value on this building? And it's going to come due at such and such time. That's what we need to do. Then your argument would be very, very strongly held. It's like, yes, we know we knew it was coming. Why didn't we do it then?
Can I make a suggestion? You guys are 90 days on the job. I'm going to assume it's probably going to take you all of 25 to try to get a good feel for what you don't know of issues that are out there that you don't know anything about with regards to capital improvements. Because stuff is going to rear its ugly head, right?
So I'll
Hang on, let me finish my thought.
Okay.
Okay. We have these meetings scheduled once a month. And why would we, the first hour of every meeting, that we have these conversations with the commissioners on this specific subject? Because I'm assuming going forward for the next for the rest of this year, hopefully by the end of 25, the commissioner's office has got a pretty good feel for, I don't know how the language is, the stuff that rears its ugly head that we wasn't aware of. You know, something like on your house, you weren't aware that your chimney was getting ready to fall away from the house, right? So that's going to take some time to go in. You've uncovered the 5 bridges, so those are some big BHAGs, right? You got some other issues here, but I don't know what other issues that lie out there, and I don't assume that you all know them either, because you got 1 quarter, this first quarter, right? So now we're in the second quarter of 2025, and if every month we maybe take 45 minutes to an hour to have this open conversation, so that we're all on the same page and we're all kind of aware of some of the costs that we're going to incur going forward.
I agree, that's the purpose of these.
Right.
These meetings.
Yeah, this is time well spent right here, I think, and I really appreciate this, right? It kind of gives me an idea of some of the challenges that we face going forward, but I don't know, you know.
Yeah, because I think waiting a year to understand the condition of the, 5, 6 buildings we own, that we're sitting in one of them right now, that have 4 walls, a roof, a parking lot, an HVAC, and a water heater. is an absurdly long period of time, especially considering we as a council have been
But
asked.
you're having
Let
to
me
uncover,
finish,
you're
let me
having,
finish.
but you're having to uncover something that you don't know exists.
Well, you and I could go walk around and look at all these buildings today and see roof problems, siding problems, 20-year-old water heaters. This is not some kind of big mystery that's super complicated. In fact, I thought we've already been working on it. We as commissioners have been working on it for a couple of years now. And so why do we need another year to evaluate the condition of how many buildings we have? It's like 5, or whatever it is, courthouse, jail, et cetera. We don't need a year to evaluate something we've owned forever, and we already know we have the same maintenance staff, these people work here. I mean, these are not mysteries.
Yeah, it's all hearsay, it's all hearsay.
No,
Unless
it's
we
not.
see Unless we see a spreadsheet of saying this is what's going down
That's right.
with each building, we don't know
We
what's
see a
going on.
spreadsheet when they can't find the money to pay for something.
Right, only in
And
the
it's
crisis stage should we
partial.
see it.
I mean, Kevin, I assume this is.
Why not have a
comprehensive
proactive
list, right?
spreadsheet? We've got more
What's that?
competence in our departments, commissioners, council, and all that stuff, I think, than we've had in years. Why don't we put it together? And I think that's what Jim's saying, it's just
Yeah,
put it
it's let's be
together.
proactive.
Yes.
And first of all, Scott, he's not a 2,080-hour-a-year employee.
Oh, well, that has nothing
So,
to
you
do
know,
with it. Yeah.
but who's gonna do the work?
I don't know if I go that far because he's been in here every single day.
Well, thank you.
Okay, here's, I mean.
So is that man right over there.
Feeding off of what Gary's
So-
saying here, if we don't have the time or expertise on hand to very quickly get a grip on what is probably millions of dollars of capital
You're trying to get ahead of somebody.
Come on, go ahead and stop.
if we don't have the expertise on hand to get a grip on what is probably millions of dollars of capital needs and investments, and it's gonna take us, I mean, we're already at least 2 years into trying to get this done. It's gonna take us another year, and we're gonna blow $1 million in debt on things in the meantime because, oh, we had a surprise water heater break. And maybe we need to hire somebody who knows what they're doing to get this done quickly. I appreciate disturbances and interruptions from the audience being at a minimum, if you would,
Yeah,
while I
well,
was speaking.
You need to
So,
speak logic.
so if we can't get a grip on this for another year, then maybe we need to bring on somebody to help us, because obviously what's been working, I mean, how many years have we been trying to get
Can we
this
pay our
here?
bill money?
I don't like that either, but at this point, I mean, we're literally going on years trying to
Okay,
get this
so-
done.
No, I think,
Right.
we're
I mean-
positioned to go proactive, from reactive to
That's what I'm
proactive.
trying to get us
Right,
into.
and I
So
don't know
can
when
I-
you're coming up with the year, all I'm saying is I've simply.
You said a year.
No, I didn't. What I said was, is you got 2 guys that are 90 days on the job. There's 4 quarters
Right.
to a year.
We got 3 commissioners.
They're brand new.
Yep.
They've only got 90 days on the job. And I'm assuming that as they progress throughout the second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, that as they progress, hopefully by the end of 2025, they keep us up to date, and we've got a pretty good feel for the work that needs to be addressed for 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay?
All right.
So it's just a goal, and to keep this conversation flowing, because they're doing what they're doing, our responsibility is to figure out how to pay for it. That's our responsibility, not theirs. So
Okay.
they're coming in and saying, hey, look, heads up, right? And I'm in agreement with you on the GO bond. I don't want to pay long-term capital improvements, that's fine, right? So we get into, it's 50 grand, not the end of the world. First step, can you find it in your commissioner's budget right out of the gate, right? Because the other issue that we're going to bring up as soon as we finish this conversation is we're going to address 2026, okay? That's this meeting today. Well, in 2026, and I'll go over all the math, I got it laid out on one page, right? We got to be real careful with the budget. And the other thing on these budgets, on these Form 1s that have to be submitted July the 1st, which is getting into the commissioner's budget, are they accurate? Because if they're not accurate, if the revenue sources aren't accurate and the expenses aren't accurate, then the whole thing's a joke.
Go ahead and throw 3 capital investment surprises into the mix after that, if we don't know what our capital, and the entire thing is a.
All right, so,
All
all right, we got a year on the table, so we'll move it up from vague generalities to reality. If by the end of the year, we want a spreadsheet or some other item that says, these are our buildings, this is where they're at, this is the potential maintenance downstream, this is the replacement value, things of that nature.
So for the
If somebody
27
professionally
budget,
knows,
we'll be able to provide.
so we'll know where we're at, okay? So this won't come as a surprise next year, we'll know it's coming.
So I'm going to, can I have a few minutes
You
now?
know.
My comment is going to be is, I'm going to lean into Mr. Kemp's comment about time. Within the first 90 days, we have gone through and discovered that there is an interlocal agreement between ourselves and Solid Waste. Solid Waste owns that building at the Highway Department.
Yeah.
They're responsible for 54% of the actual maintenance and cost and insurance and all of those things. Those are the kinds of things that are coming back. And as we go forward, because I've taken areas, Tim's taken areas, Ron's taken areas related mainly to the construction part of this, is having conversations with Phil, saying, Phil, this is going to fall on, here's this. That's why I said $38,000 is going to fall and hit his budget. That did not, and that would have, came out of the commissioner's budget. So that work, Mr. Rudd, is being done. It just takes time.
Yeah.
And I am a little opposed to, you're okay with spending money to bring resources in when we have no idea what the budget is, but I'm not okay when I come forth with you to give you actual data numbers as to what the costs are and what the expenditures are that I've identified.
That's fair enough. Is this a comprehensive maintenance list for 2025?
No, sir, absolutely not.
So,
Those are the emergencies right now.
And quadrant one stuff.
so where's the other, do we have another list of quadrant
They're digging
2,
it
3,
up.
4?
It's being worked on as we come through and spend our time when we're not engaged with a culvert that is now completely washed out of Hoover Road in the flood this morning.
Yeah.
Okay,
The highway.
so we're trying to balance our priorities, and unfortunately, being a commissioner, you tend to lean towards more tactical in our operation. That's why it's called executive,
Until you go proactive.
Yeah.
until we get to the point where we are proactive and becoming strategic, and that is being worked on.
You're putting out fires right now.
Yeah. So these are fires that popped up in the first 90 days.
I know you are, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm giving you, I'm saying,
We've covered this.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know why we spent an hour on it.
I don't- well,
We covered
it's
it. We got a plan.
I like this, let's talk about it once a month, and this, you guys are doing a good job, and I really appreciate it. And let's just, and it's 50 grand, okay, not the end of the world, okay? It's not like we don't,
I'm not more than 50, because I've got 3 other things on there that are LEC.
I'm just looking at your ready, around,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the actual dollar spent.
I'm just looking at the ready.
What I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to isolate to where we have fundings related to the GO bond. I completely agree.
Right, right.
I don't want these emergencies, I don't want these things coming out of the GO bond money. I don't want to be funded by debt. But if I look at it right now, I'm gonna put it this way, and this is a conversation that I had. You allowed in the bond to allow us to include project services and other things related to these projects. That's not necessarily something that typically gets allocated to bonds. It typically only ends up covering construction costs directly, which means that in the Crawford County, those funds and engineering costs and all those things and those services would be coming from other budget lines in the county budget, okay?
That's
So
in counties that have plenty of a general fund budget.
give me a second.
All that stuff.
So that conversation with that is I have other things. So if we go and explore this whole thing with regards to the building related to here and financially coming to the point of saying, it doesn't make sense to build a $2 million new building. It makes sense to go and buy one and refurbish it. However that works, that's for the commissioners to come and say, here's the plan, here's how it's going to be executed, here's the cost. That's what's going to happen here, okay? So that's where I sit on this. To me, what has been lacking and all the time that I have been in all of these meetings is someone coming to you that was not 2 days before a water heater was about to explode and saying, this needs to be taken care of.
That's appreciated.
All right, so we'll go proactive. One other question that came up recently is for the highway department, they spend a lot of money, are they gonna have a budget for next year, is it functional, or?
So the actual carried over $40,000 from the financial report that Tim carried. Eric is already going through, he's combing through his budgets. So we've not completely written off any paving, because one of the roads that's significantly in poor repair right now is Grandview, and the two roads that lead to Bartholomew County. He's actually scouring his budgets and looking through, how can I pull from the other CapEx funds, the bridge fund, the CCMG matching fund, which I give him kudos on actually having us prepared and actually having 4 of the 5 bridges that we discussed taken care of, right? As far as isolated, identified, work done, prepared, submit, in the queue, working closely with the NDOT people to do that stuff. Unfortunately, we had 2 roads that blew out this morning. So now, who knows what those are going to cost us. The replacement of a culvert that happened, which is a crossing on Hamilton Creek, cost us about $380,000 to $400,000 to put that culvert back in place, to put the proper riprap around it, to put the proper fill sand around it, to put the proper concrete around it. And that was with the county providing the labor to do that.
It's got till tomorrow night, so no problem.
So,
I think I hold off until after all the rain is over.
and I've already been told, and again, heads up, we are already blown through a lot of our overtime pay for the highway department. Because the 2 storms, plus 2 snowstorms that we've had, plus the 2 storms that we've had just now.
I heard they're just out working all night.
Yes, I had the superintendent, 8 gentlemen, and the assistant superintendent in here at 11 o'clock last night, and they have not gone home for the day yet. They plan on leaving at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, they're doing great work. Well, I appreciate you bringing the maintenance, your
And again, this
current
is,
draft of maintenance projects,
it's going to grow.
which is partial, and your apparent budget deficit to our attention. But yeah, we got a lot more work to do.
And to his point, and to your point about the capital improvement plan needing to know where everything is, if we end up having to buy, I don't say having to, if the best option for us, for the prosecutor's office, is buying another piece of property, they said we can't use the GO bond for it. So that's where the general fund needs to be freed up, which is why the GO bond needs to be used for the capital projects that it was intended for, so that we don't get hit with an emergency.
But I'm gonna recommend that we probably,
And it's a big picture thing. We need to have a big picture.
Yeah.
So,
and first and foremost, wouldn't it be in our best interest to clearly define the distinction between a capital improvement as opposed to an operating expense?
I mean,
Okay,
I
so
think we should be there.
a gallon
We should
hot
be way
water,
past
a
that.
500,
Yeah.
a 500, 250 gallon hot water heater, I mean, that's an operating expense. That's not a capital
I
improvement.
mean, I would say you're probably right.
Okay.
One way to do that.
So what I'm trying to eliminate is this divisiveness that this creates, and that first things first, when an expense comes up, is clearly defining, is that a capital improvement, or is that just a month-to-month, year-to-year operating expense? And if we're very clear on the definition of those two, then we can accurately categorize it and immediately go, that's an operating expense, so it's not being paid out. That's policy.
And Susan, you've probably worked with this a lot, but I mean, having done this before, we can set and really, maybe you guys set this $25 million or $25,000 minimum for a capital investment, or a $50,000 minimum capital investment threshold. And then Susan, usually capital investments are things that last multiple years, right? It's not a paper
What
straw.
is the definition of capital investment?
And so it's,
How do you define
it's
it?
here, I just described it, but Susan, do you want to clean that up?
Real property.
And let's put it right.
Go ahead.
Let's put it right.
So, right. So dollar amount doesn't matter for capital improvements. It is the length of the asset. So anything that lasts for a year or longer is going to be considered a capital improvement. Not saying that that has to come out of a bond. You have the 4,000 line in certain budgets. it's appropriate, and Reedy's will probably go through this just a little bit when we're doing the budget this year. Like, there could be within the commissioner's budget, allocation of money, an appropriation for capital improvements, 4,000s. Like, we're not saying take everything out of your budget, because you do have this, right? It's not, it doesn't make sense to pay for certain repairs. I'm going to take this water heater as the example, out of the capital bond. If you have an appropriation, I apologize, we just got power back on. If we have an appropriation for capital expenditures within the commissioner's budget, right? So, and you have certain things like the health department may have some capital expenditures in there, because why would you use general fund money when the health fund could fund their capital expenditures, right? So not necessarily everything that is capital has to come out of the GO bond. You want specific projects to come out of the GO bond. And then if you've done those projects and have seen a savings from what your estimated costs were on those projects, and you have money left in that bond, then maybe you can use it for some other like capital expenditures. So you could potentially use it for the water heater at the sheriff's department if you have another project in there that is within the sheriff's department building, and you've completed that project and you saw a savings of, $65,000, it came in less than estimated, and then you have the money in there to make the water heater repair. Does that make sense?
Yep. Susan, what I was referencing with the threshold for capital improvements is more related to the capital plan, because we don't want to count pencils in the desk, even though they last longer than a year, right, that are 10 cents each. We want to kind of focus on items that are a certain value and above, just to minimize one, the work on commissioners. But yeah, 25, 50,000 is something I've seen as kind of a minimum value, that where you do a long-term capital plan for those types of investments. So a little bit different.
Yeah, you may be confusing fixed assets, right? I think you're getting into a little bit of fixed assets, which is what is a report that the auditor keeps for your larger ticket items, like your computer monitors, your CPUs, your printers, your things like that. Those are all fixed assets. You're not going to use those up. Pencils, pens, paper, that's an operating expense. You use that up. It's not a fixed asset.
So I think if we get a spreadsheet talking about replacement value of major capital items, and the capital asset may be to maintain the value of that capital asset that pencils don't do. But something like your water heater may. Things of that nature, maybe once we go proactive and get things in order.
Reedy's done this 1,000 times. They know exactly what a capital, these are not unknown questions, so I don't want to way down the road from that.
I don't even necessarily want to put the dollar on it, because the water heater, the $50,000 water heater at the jail is a capital asset. Now, the monthly bill to run that is a operating expense. Right. So there's the difference between the actual water heater itself and
What all I'm asking is, let's just clearly define that. I think put it right.
Even like this building, if we've got a $1,500 water.
My frustration with this whole experience in the last 27 months is we have nothing in writing. We have all these conversations, and there's a lot of conversations. There's no clarity, nothing in writing, nor organization, and you recycle the same conversations over and over and over again. And it's really an exercise in futility.
So can we ask you by the end of the year to have a spreadsheet for all the buildings with the maintenance value or the things of that nature?
It's gonna happen.
I'd like it next quarter.
What do you do?
Well, you'd like it this quarter. When can we get that?
And I am not going to give it to you this quarter.
And I'm just saying, I'd like it this quarter. I'm not demanding it this quarter.
Would you like it before we decide our budget?
That is a concrete entity that we can work off of.
But that's not a demand.
Can we bring this conversation to a close and move on to the next topic?
I think what Darren said, our
I'm just trying
budget
to do
is,
something in writing.
we're moving on to our
Something in
budget.
writing.
Yeah, now he doesn't want to talk about it, yeah.
Well, I asked you them if they're gonna do it. Fine, we'll put it in writing.
Let's
after
get a
that.
process.
Let's get
Oh,
approval.
good
Put the
Lord.
freaking.
So I know that the discussion in December that we both were able to attend before we were commissioners is the commitment that we have, which Tim and I are working towards, along with Ron as well, and that is that we are pulling together information related to the capital assets.
And you keep us updated monthly, that'd be great.
I will
And our
do, I will
budget,
do,
our budgets are due when, because we need that information to determine 27's budget, right, Mr. Chairman? May 31st. So if we don't get it by our budgeting time, whatever
All
that,
right, Scott,
then we cannot budget for this in 27. I'm sorry, 6, yeah. So it's a 27.
Skip the whole year.
Well, we are gonna miss a year if we don't get it by our budget for 26.
That's why Aaron wants to score.
Yeah.
so the request this morning was to come and say, talk about Gold Bond, you've got an update on those things. The question is, and if you need to go, I assume it sounds like Susan or someone's going to go back and read the Go Bond language. I do not believe it specifically said it was isolated to the HVAC systems. As I said, I think it's along to other things as needed, and I think that was the category in each one of the 4 main categories identified. So, again, we as commissioners could have exercised that and then had a fight at the end of the year, but we don't want to do that.
Well, part of that though, you have to come to council.
Mhm.
Part of that was though, that you have to come to council for something.
But there were others, if I remember reading it correctly in that language, that there were other items under each one of those projects that allowed flexibility
Yeah.
related to that. So that's my understanding.
And it is in the go bond about having oversight.
Yeah, we want, let's just go proactive, it's a good opportunity to go proactive. In your situation, Scott, is yes, it'd be nice if we could do it that way, but there are no solutions, there are only compromises.
And it's not
That's
about,
how
it's not an
it's solved.
impression of forcing you to come to us for permission. It's just so we're all on the same page, so we're working together
Yeah.
and knowing the status.
The more we get proactive, the less it'll be permission, and let's keep going in that direction.
It's not a power trip or ego thing, it's just,
No, I have no, I'm here to work with the council. We're all here to work with the council.
I'm here to work with commissioners.
So
Let's keep doing
Thank you
it.
very much.
that doesn't mean that you can't be contentious. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you
Thank you.
for your time.
Appreciate it.
Is this a 5-minute break?
Okay.
For what?
For what?
Bathroom?
What? You didn't adjourn. Joel, why don't you go ahead and lead us through the budget discussions and we'll get out of here. We'll adjourn before they get back. How about that?
I bet you won't.
Yes, I have 2 people in my office.
I recommend we close this meeting.
Second.
Second,
All in
okay.
favor? Oh darn, we lost the 4th vote.
Oh,
Darn. We were close.
Steakhouse.
Yeah,
What's with the property tax, but they finally decided on that.
we're still working on it.
So did they get rid, are they still planning on cutting it or
Yeah.
phasing it
Oh,
over
yeah.
3 years?
Yeah.
Because on the radio, they make no, especially 20 cats, makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's still in the works. They haven't decided ultimately what they're gonna do, but it looks like a cut. And for us,
So they're not gonna get rid of it though.
I think ultimately they'd like to phase it out on the read it.
I heard them say over 3 years, to figure it out.
We're on a
Yeah.
5-minute break.
Which I'm for, because mine's
Hey, man, I think I did 10 this year.
Do I have this?
Yesterday?
Yeah.
All right, now, if I could just have the floor. And what I did,
Does Susan have this?
no,
Good reading conversation.
what, I want to cover this summary page. This is a summary page, the first one. And these additional pages is all the supporting documentation. So that you have the supporting fact pattern for the summary page. You with me? So if you're going to get this number at, well, you can go back here and find it of where I pulled these numbers from. So you gotta have, does that make sense? Number two, this is, the focus is specifically general fund. Now, my argument for focusing for us as a body to focus specifically on the general fund is you have to remember there's 27 departments and 25 of those are paid out of the general fund. The other two that are not is the health department and the highway department. Because the health department and the highway department are not out, their revenue doesn't come out of that general fund. Yeah, they've got their own little separate, now the issue is you get those highway department commissioner's office, which a big chunk is cash flowed out of the general fund, and you'll see that here in a minute, is those coming in, like this conversation right here, is saying, hey, we got, we didn't forecast our expenses properly, we got more expenses than we thought we were gonna have, and now we need more money. And then where do we always go to get that money? General fund, right? So what this is this top page, let me just walk through it because there's a lot of numbers and it can get real confusing real quick. Just keep in mind, I had to put this together yesterday. I probably spent 3 days probably figuring out in my head how the hell I was going to format it.
Hey, Jim, where you want to get us today?
Well, just let me go through it and when you get done, you'll see.
Okay.
You'll see exactly.
There's some revelations we need to be aware
Yeah,
of.
this is where you, this is, okay, so, and with this, okay, and the target of this is for the 5/31 deadline. That we all, because I'm under the assumption that we're all in agreement of, what are we solving for, what's our purpose? A, how do we get our credit rating back to AAA, number one. Number two, we agreed that we need to get the rainy day fund back up to 2.5 million, correct?
Are those two values, let's just agree, are those two values we feel is important?
Are those a
Our credit
priority?
rating and getting our rainy day fund up to 2.5 million, is that somewhere we want to go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
and the third one then would be to try to get $1 million excess into the 4,700 fund, which in my opinion, that's the biggest liability that we have is the group medical. It can really reach out and bite us if we're not careful, all right? So that means we've got to find 3.5 million, all right? If we were to fund that right now, we'd have to have 3.5 million. We put $1 million in the 4,700 account, we put 2.5 million in the rainy day, minus the 177, so, okay? So what this does, what I did is I went through, because Reedy has come in, Caitlin Schaefer is working with Julie, and I'm assuming, Julie, that relationship's a good relationship so far? Is it? So you're happy?
Yes.
Okay, good. And so they've gone and pulled numbers out of the auditor's office, and, they put together some stuff. And so here we go. So this is just saying, okay, the left-hand column where it says 11/29/23, which you've got a copy in here, DLGF Form 1782. For 2024, the DLGF projected our property tax revenue in the general fund would be $28,9527. In miscellaneous revenue, they projected $58,74,852. They projected our total revenue for 2024 as $87,065,379. And then they also stated that our operating balance, our cash reserve for 12/31 of 2024 would be 1149,346. Because on that operating balance, that cash reserve, I believe we all agreed, we have a target of 15%. And that 15% would be 15% of that annual revenue, all right? Actual, and this is-
Actually, and gosh, it feels like Groundhog Day talking about this, but it's not the 15% of the revenue we bring in, it's the 15% operating reserve of the budget we spend.
I'm calculating off of revenue.
Yeah, but we talked about
clarify
this
that.
20
That's a good
times.
point. Let's
This
agree on
is,
where
it's
we're
a
going.
big difference.
Okay, so which way do we want to go off of what we spent? Or
Before we talk about this, let me roll through it. Okay, so what I'm sharing with you is in these operating balances, I'm calculating 15% of estimated revenues.
And these operating balance.
So our cash reserves,
Cash reserve.
cash reserves. So 15% of revenues is the target for our cash reserves.
I mean, this is the way you put it together, but I don't think it is in actuality, so.
It's however we want to define it.
Yeah.
It's up to the council to define it, yeah.
Yeah.
So now actual, and this is good news, right? This is the good news, is at the end of 2024, our property tax revenue was accurate. It was 2906, 268 actual, so we were actually up 15,741 for the year in property tax. Where it was a shocker is that the actual revenue for miscellaneous revenue in the general fund was actually 77,24,274. We picked up $1,849,422 in addition to what the DLGF had projected in 1782. And Julie, they are reporting to us that our cash reserve balance as of 12/31/2024 was $3,463,870. How accurate is that number in your judgment?
Pretty accurate.
Okay. Well, if that number is accurate, of course, the problem with these numbers is they change daily, as you all know. Well, what that says is, well, gee, we were up $2,314,524, right?
Above our estimate, right?
That's right, yeah. Now, let's move to 2025. So, because we're in 2025, the 1782 shows the property tax levy as 2975,662. Reedy's projecting it at 2979,556. And we got to remember, these are all projections, right? So the delta is we're 3894 higher than what the 1782 is projected. Miscellaneous revenue, 1782 was 6104,405. Reedy's projecting in 25, 73,334,539. So that's an additional $1,230,134. And then our total would be, $1,234,028. Then our 2025 general fund expenses, which you've got that in here, is 97,16,024, right? Now, here's what changes. Based off the 1782, we were upside down 635,947. Based on Reedy's forecast, we're actually up 598,071. So that's a good thing. So we got more money than we thought we were going to have, right? So then we look at 12/31/2024 operating balance. So if we look at that, we say based on the 1782, we would have had and this is where that cash reserve comes in at $1.5 million off of $10 million, right? And what that does is it shows that we've got excess cash reserves at the end of 25 of 568,634, and then at the end of 25 we should have excess cash reserves of $2.5 million. That $2.5 million, that 25,61,941, is above and beyond the $1.5 million in cash reserves. All right.
What do you mean by that?
What it means is that we've got the 12/31/2025 projected balance is $4,061,941. And if we back out the $1.5 million that we want to maintain on an ongoing basis, right, it gives us $2.5 million our $2,561,941 excess capital. Yeah,
So operating reserves, basically, additional operating reserves.
additional money,
So
additional
we've got-
money for 2025.
In other words, we've got well over 15% operating reserves based
Plus, we have
on,
another 2.5 million.
and that's based on your revenue model. Let's go back to to the miscellaneous revenue where things got sideways.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're gonna use that number to estimate 25, I wanna make sure that number is,
here, okay, so go,
Yeah.
let's do a favor for everyone, because you gotta be careful, because this thing, look at the second page. This is what we received from Reedy, and I talked to Jerry yesterday, and just FYI, Jerry agreed to be on call. Okay? Because, the question was, does he need to be at this meeting? And I had told him, I said, I'll leave that entirely up to you.
I think it should be.
Well, but he's on, if we need,
Yeah.
but he's trying to work, and he's
Yeah.
got stuff he's trying to get ready for Monday for another client,
So
so.
we don't need him sitting here.
No,
listening to
no,
our numbers.
no, we don't, no, yeah. So if you look at the 2025 projection, okay? And you're gonna see, that's where I pulled these numbers. General property taxes is 2979556. All of these other revenue numbers, and you notice he's got lit certified shares and lit supplemental, that's $3 million. And so what Jerry and I discussed yesterday, and what I think would be best practice for us as a council, is to have them create a monthly report to where pulling the data out aloud, and the council establishes a practice of every month, we are watching our receipts in this miscellaneous revenue category, because there's a whole bunch of, because if you flip to the next page, it continues to go along.
Is miscellaneous, where is it categorized in here?
Yeah, go, so find your 2025 projection, right?
Right,
And then see where it says, just start with financial institution tax.
yep.
And then it goes excise tax, commercial vehicle. I mean, there are so many different.
Where does it end? Where's miscellaneous category end? I'm
On
trying
the
to
next page, go to the next
keep going.
page, flip it over.
And so where did it spike? Why was the estimate so much lower than the projection of miscellaneous revenue in 2020?
Well, I talked to Jerry about that, and I don't, not complaining to understand it. This miscellaneous revenue, some of this is money that we generate internally as a county government, right? And then, but I think the big one, like for example, notice, they've got in here for 2025, 600 grand in interest out of the treasurer's office, right? And then the one that jumps out on me on the second page, it shows miscellaneous revenue, 471,241. Well, what's in that? And
Well,
when
when I look through all those, Jim, I don't see a big bump like over, which is good. That miscellaneous revenue appears to be somewhat stable over the previous years, but how do we estimate it so low?
well, you'll have to ask the DLGF on that. I don't know how the DLGF, I've been going off the DLGF 1782 every year.
Yeah,
And
that's what we give to them.
What you're not seeing compared on here, Scott, is this is Reedy's actual numbers, this isn't the DLGF.
We're keeping that
So we don't-
right
we don't
now.
have a comparison of the DLGF estimates with Reedy's actual.
Yeah, we don't have it, we don't have that data.
So that's where you're not seeing the.
Yeah, you're not gonna see the
This-
data on the
This is
DLGF.
only a layout
Right.
of Reedy's actual.
Right.
It's
No, what
not
I'm-
showing a comparison of the two.
And what I'm proposing though, is that we as a council body monthly, work with the auditor's office, work with Reedy, and we've got to pay attention to those receipts that are coming in on the miscellaneous revenue, because there's a whole boatload of different categories. And we got to really make certain, are we on target? Are we under target? Are we on target? Are we more? Are we less? Where are we? And making sure that we really understand, where the revenue's coming from month to month, year to year in this general fund, because it's $10 million if it's accurate.
Let me ask you this. Have you run the numbers on our current miscellaneous revenue to see if the projected 25 is going to be in the ballpark yet? Like, we're through the first quarter,
No, we haven't done that yet.
so we don't know.
No, we don't know. We don't
So
know
this
that.
is just a
This is a
Like
projected,
throw a dart.
that's
kind of
right.
number.
So-
It could be totally fake,
you don't know.
so we can't use it.
Well,
essentially.
we can use it as a guideline, because what I'm trying to do here, let's go back to the first page.
I don't know if it would be totally fake since they've gotten all the reports that they've gotten.
We just need to see it though. 'cause
Yeah.
Well, we can't
what is
see it because it comes in month to month?
Yeah, month to month, yeah.
So it's,
Yeah.
we don't know it until we actually
Well, we're
get
gonna
it.
track
This is
it.
just a projection based on.
Yeah.
We're gonna
So
see
it's
it
not-
start.
I mean, if we actually
It's
get
not-
the report, if we can print out a report monthly to see what has came in or what is
Yeah, then we
coming
can
in.
verify the projection, maybe.
Right, when you got
maybe
any
not.
comparison, to show,
Correct.
right. Like, for example, and this is just kind of off subject, I talked to the United States Department of Agriculture because I want to know exactly what percentage of real estate in Brown County was, the United States Department of Agriculture versus the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, and it's 32% is what it is.
US Department of
It's-
Ag.
the-
That would be
the United
Department of
States-
Interior.
The
Yeah.
United States Department of Agriculture owns the Hoosier National Forest.
Is that interior or?
It's
yeah,
down in
okay,
Bedford.
okay,
I talked to
okay.
the lady at the office, got her name, got her phone
Yeah.
number, got it all documented. But, so when I've heard claims made in the past that we don't get any revenue off of that, well, that's not true. We
We get a
get
pilot.
69,000.
Yeah.
Less than-
Right, so I don't know where that 69 grand, did they actually pay us for 24? I don't know.
It's like.
Could we get it?
It's like a pilot from what I
So,
understand.
but my point is, I have money, I have money, y'all have money coming in every month, right? And you have to pay your bills. Well, we gotta pay attention to the revenues and making sure we're hitting every freaking dime that is coming in and making certain that we track it. Because if we can do that over time, it will make this so much easier. Because now, let me continue to go on, because we're a little bit off subject. Now, go down to 2026, page 1. Yeah, the first page. So I'm just pulling these numbers that Reedy gave me, right? So we got property tax levy at 2984,369. We got miscellaneous revenues at 7,025,721. Their projection in the general fund, the total revenue for 2026, this is 2026, is 10,010,090. So a little scooch over 10 million bucks. Here's the challenge. If, underscore if several times, if that 2026 revenue projection is accurate, then our total general fund expenses for 2025 were $9,716,024. And if the Form 1s that get submitted into Julie's office in July 1, if we hold the line on those expenses to 2025, that only gives us $294,000 of cushion. That's it.
Savings.
That's it. Not much, not much, yeah. So, and then the other thing too, and I'll take it one step further that I don't have documented here, of that 97,1624 in expenses, and if you look, let's go back a few pages here, and I gave you that originally. There's that page that shows Brown County 2025 General Fund 010 Gateway line item adopted budget. There's your $9,716,000.
Hold on, where you at?
Where are we? Sorry.
Second to last
This
page.
page right here.
Second to last
I'm
page.
finding my thing. Where am I?
Yeah, go to that, this page right here.
Second to last page.
This guy right here, yeah.
Brown County.
I think you got it, yeah.
That's a shock, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's got, makes your eyes blur. It's a lot of math. But if you notice on the left, it shows, I've got them busted down in executive fiscal, right? So council and commissioners. Then I call them the administrative total, so these are all your administrative offices. Then we call them social services. Then we get into the justice system, right? And then if you look over on the far right, you can see that the executive, the commissioners and the council make up 37.2% of the overall expenses. And of that 37, 93% is the commissioner's office at $3,354,308. Then if you look down at the administrative total, they only represent right at $1 million, so it's 10%. 10%. And then if you go down to social services, 4.73%. But the big one is when you go down and you look at all the departments that fall under the justice system, 47.3% or $4,495,790, right? So this is the actual, 2025 budget, 97,16,024. Then if you go back and you look under personal services, where it says 7,390,626, that makes up 76% of the overall expenses. Those personal services, that's a lot of that's your labor cost. Okay? There's more stuff in there other than, well, not much, it's basically your labor cost.
No benefits.
Well, good question. Now go to the very last page, right? And what I've created here, this is all, we got 3 million, is everybody there? Yeah, I'm going too fast, sorry. I don't mean to try to run through this. $3,564,226 is what's in the budget for 2025, and what I'm going to refer to as employee benefits. So, and if you look under the general fund, right, what you're going to see is there's $394,914 out of the general fund in the sheriff's pension. There's $400,000 in FICA tax, $400,000 in perf, $1.1 million in group medical, $80,000 in Bay County share, $10,000 in unemployment, and employment wellness incentive, $30,000. And then we got AUL life insurance, which I'm not quite sure what that's for, but anyway, $17,000, right? And then what it shows in the one that I think I'd really like to point your attention to is if you look at the group medical based on 2025's budget, total that we budgeted for 2025 was $1,931,960. And then you can see where we pulled, what funds we pulled the money out of across, right? So economic development, for example, in the commissioner's budget, there's $405,000 in the commissioner's budget for group medical, right? So now you've only got for 2026 with this $10 million revenue number and $9,700,000 in expenses. It is, and that's in this 26. If we send a memo to every one of these departments, and we tell them by 12/31/2025, you need to keep your 2026 budget to 2025 numbers, period. And you do not go in and you don't increase your labor costs, you put nothing in there for labor costs, you keep those exactly the same as 2025. And the reason I'm kind of advocating that we do this is that if you go back to this other page that shows your, it's like the next to last, and you look, there's your labor cost, all right? And the total labor cost is $7,401,307. Well, now we get into an issue of cost of living adjustment. So does the council want to do, last year I remember being thrown under the bus of going, well, do you want to do a 3 or a 5% increase? Well, I didn't know what the total labor cost was. So how can I determine whether I want to go 3 or 5? Because if I do a 3% increase on 7.4 million, that's 222,000, right? Plus on that 221 grand, you got to remember you got 11.2% perf that has to be paid off of that, and you got 7.65 FICA that has to be paid. So it's really not 223. Well, an issue is if we hold the line for 2026 to the 2025 budget, you're going to eat up that 294 real fast, just with COLA, FICA, and perf, and you're going to be at a push for 2026. So, and then on top of that, to complicate it even a little further, we have no idea what WIS is going to come back and tell us on this compensation study that they're doing. No idea. I don't have any idea whether they're going to come back and say, hey, we're going to save you some money, which I doubt that's highly going to happen. But my default is probably going to come back, and what scares me is they come back and say, well, we can do this the right way and get it all set up, but it's going to cost you another $700 grand.
That's apart from the fact that FLSA and exempt and non-exempt.
Well, that doesn't even factor into it, I'm not even taking that in. So now all of a sudden for 2026, we're back to writing red ink. Right? Which then, so when I know that, okay, right now, we've got excess cash of what scares me, and I'm just gonna be very forthright, is we got $2,561,941 in excess cash.
Expected.
All right? And this is will be on YouTube, and they're gonna be listening to me speak, and they're
So
gonna hear
that's an
that number.
operating reserve number.
No, that's above and beyond the cash reserve.
So in addition to the 15%.
We got access to
So we
that.
got a 25-30%.
And everybody's brother's gonna come out of the woodwork going, hey, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money.
But you don't have to wait for that. We're already getting additional appropriation requests in the first quarter.
Right. So,
And so that's to my point. If you want to, even more importantly than holding the budget in 26,
yeah,
is holding the budget now.
right,
Now.
now,
So
right.
these additional appropriation requests we keep getting, we didn't think of this, we didn't think of that, we want to use
We
this
gotta
or
be
that.
really careful.
You're probably going to see me vote against all of them. Unless it's an extreme example.
Yeah, this again goes with going proactive as we get our act together rather than used to be, we'd operate was who shows up and wants money. That's how it works.
Well, and the other thing too, that I think, because what I try to do personally is put myself in Julie's position, any department head, right? So I've got my own department. And you know what? I want as much money as I can get. And if I'm in there, I'm gonna ask for the world. I'm just gonna, I want more money, I want more money, I want more money, because it's my department, right? And number two, I don't want the council telling me what I can and can't do within my department. Because number one, I don't like being told what to do. I don't need people telling me what to do. I know what I need to do, all right? So number one, I'm gonna ask for as much as I can get. Number two, I'm gonna spend it how I wanna spend it, right? So for me, if I was a department head, I just want the council to tell me how much money I get for 2026. And then I'll figure out how I'm gonna do my budget. So it's my budget, it ain't yours, right? And so to me, says, well, let's tell these departments, here's what you're gonna get allocated for 26. Let's give Gary the approval to send out a memo before May 31st. That gives them 30 days, right? Because they got a 30-day gap between May 31st and July 1, which is when the budgets are due. And then they're gonna have to go work the numbers, and they gotta stay under that number, period. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't really care, and then, so, I'm gonna pick on Brad Scottsdale for a second. Brad, you get $1,711,765 for 26, that's all you get. Don't come back over that number. As long as he stays at that number or less, then I don't care. I really don't care. It's his problem, not mine. Okay? And I'm not trying to be mean, I'm not trying to be nasty, but we've only got an estimated 294,000 at the end of 25, right? Or excuse me, that was the end of 26. And the problem with this is it's all projected. So the challenge is going to be this year, as soon as we can get Reedy and Julie and get everything kind of set up, because I don't think I want you to let Reedy, we're paying Reedy, they can pull the data, put together a one-page report. You shouldn't have to do that. You got enough stuff to do, okay? So let them pull the stupid data and put the report together. We'll format the report, because it should be a one-page report that we get every month. And then every quarter in, they can do a year-to-date quarter recap, right? So we know where we are. And we've got to start.
We get that next month.
Well, we can work on it. We got to get it, because we need to start doing it now.
I think it's in our contract.
Well, we told him that. He knows that, and yeah, but they're anyway. So, because if we get that, then we can now we really know how much money we got coming in.
Yeah, that's a standard issue.
Yeah. And it should make them, and then they come in, they do the Form 1s, as long as they stay within that guideline, as long as, now, if we got anybody over that's coming back and saying, nope, I need $200,000 more, then that's a red flag, and somebody's gonna have to sit down with them and go through with the fine-tooth comb and find out why, right? Because we can't afford it. So it is, and then we can have our 1 day or 2 day or however many days you guys want to do it. I call it the dog and pony show. It's the Form 1 dog and pony. It's kind of a formality to where we can roll through the Form 1s, and then Julie can take it, they get it uploaded, and it's over. It's over. We don't have to do it anymore. Now, the one last thing I will just say is commissions. And this is individually. We need to be updated on I'd like to have a report that speaks specifically to 2025 of the breakdown of the cost of the group medical. So I did this once, I can show you an example, I've already done it. But what I want to know is what the reinsurance contract cost. I want to know what I think we've got a organ transplant contract in there. What are we paying Anthem as a plan administrator? Blah, 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 blah. We ought to review, but okay, I want a one-page report. I don't want to have to spend hours having to go through and dissect it. So that we're all on the same page, to where we understand what those fixed costs are with the group medical, right? And I think it would behoove us to understand, you know, I was told the reinsurance contract didn't change, which I guess we're still the same company, right?
Yes.
So the language in that contract hasn't changed.
We rebid, hired the same company again.
Yeah, the only thing we shifted, I think, was plan administrator, right? We got rid of Sci-Ho and put Anthem in, yeah. But we ought to be on top of that number, right?
To that point, that's the one that always gets us too. We budget, we estimate, and then surprise, the health fund is
Right.
blown out of the water and our budget follows.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not anticipating that this year because we've had several of our larger,
Three main
Cost.
ones are off plan this
Yeah.
So we're looking,
Yes.
maybe, I mean,
Everyone, 3 people who represented about 700,000 are
Yeah.
no longer on.
exactly.
so,
But, yeah, so our budget process should be fairly, if we can implement this, it shouldn't be a big deal. Because here's the other conversation that I did have with Jerry as well, because I went back, and I didn't bring it with. I went back and studied the revenues and the disbursements, okay, historically. And there's a huge standard volatility, standard deviation, to the tune of $1.5 million, right? Over 10 years, 11 years. And if you think about it, just like all of us personally, our revenue, our income every year is fairly stable, right? Isn't it? I mean, yours might pop up a little bit. You get a big, some kind of a land of big deal, and you're going out and they're paying you 10 grand to fly drones over or something. My revenue is fairly stable, right? And my expenses for my office are stable. My expenses at the house is stable, except for, maintenance, so housing maintenance, transportation maintenance at the, at the personal level. But I can forecast those costs, right? That I know I'm going to put another $3,500 in the bins to keep it on the road. And the county's expenses, because every department does the same thing year after year after year after year. At issue with the county is really getting back into this capital improvement thing of us uncovering stuff that we're not aware of, right? The electrical wiring in this building, if they install it wrong, and it's gonna heat up, catch fire, and the building catches fire, it burns, right? Nobody knows that. So, but from year to year, those revenues and those expenses should be fairly stable from one year to the next. There shouldn't be much in the way of volatility, other than inflation. Inflation will affect it, right? But the key piece to it, the labor cost, and then hopefully WIS can address this. The labor cost, those are the challenges, is keeping a lid on labor costs, keeping a lid on employee benefits. So I'm done, and I guess what I'm going to ask for all of you to think through is it would be nice, this is April. We've got a regular meeting coming up here in a couple of weeks, right? I don't know that I don't know that maybe Susan can speak to this, but Gary needs to be given the authority, if you all agree with this approach. We tell these departments they have to hold the line on their Form 1s to 2025 numbers for 26.
You want to do that in April or May? Well, April.
Well, it's, you can make the decision in April, then you can send the memos out in May.
Yeah.
Early May.
Yeah, early. I think it would be better to send it to the departments far sooner to give them more time. I don't want to throw them under the bus.
25, not 24 grades.
No, 25.
The only
Why 25?
The only issue with that may be like the vendors that we have, their costs going up.
So we're gonna have to,
I mean, that might be the only issue.
right, that's, you're gonna have inflation, right?
Right.
Right,
As far as the budget.
right. But like the challenge with it, like and I, this is, probably end up in a Democrat. When we have a department that's got a lot of employees, and when the department sends the auditor's office 4 pages of legal pads, so 4 legal pad pages, written, handwritten, to the auditor's office for their pay grades, their salary, their longevity, stipends, etc., which I have a copy of it. And when I read that copy, and when I saw that, my blood pressure went to the ceiling, okay? Because number one, if I were the payroll clerk and I get, 4 pages of legal pad, in handwriting, covering the compensation for all the employees, some of the writing I couldn't interpret, okay? And I'm sitting here going, this is 2025. Why don't we have, and I've put in a request to Reedy, that a process is that every department, when it comes to their labor cost, all right, and all the stuff that goes, because there's a lot that goes involved in that goes into an Excel format. And that Excel spreadsheet is a protected format, they can't change it, and all they do is they type in the numbers, tab, tab, put in the numbers, tab, 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 right? And then they save the stupid thing, okay? They email it to the auditor's office, and then the auditor's got they've got Excel files of every department where they can read it, and we put in the automatic where, Excel, you can automatically calculate everything up, so we know the math is right, because the formulas were put in. And we kind of go, can we move to 2025 instead of operating in 1972? Because that's a 1972 process.
You think?
Yeah, it's insane. Because it's too risky for error. I mean, it's just, it is just.
Everything has to be going over.
Yeah, so I've asked Reedy to do that, and with your permission, I would like to see us implement that and get that Excel spreadsheet where it's protected, it's formatted, the formulas are in there, you oversee it with Reedy, and then that goes out to these departments. And it goes out to these departments, and they fill out the Excel spreadsheet, okay? And if there's any numbers that aren't accurate, that goes on them, not on you.
So you're saying that'll increase the cost?
Possibly. I mean, we don't have a set cost for reading. If you look at your
It's pay as you go.
contract.
And it's billable hours.
Pay as you go, so you don't know what your costs are going to be for them.
Hopefully there'll be greater
don't have that
efficiencies
cost.
come out of that.
And I've only got so much budgeted for FSG, so whatever I have for FSG is what I'm spending on reading.
Okay, yeah, but we've also got the attrition fund that we can use to cover the reading cost, okay?
Which may be what you have to do because
I'm assuming that we will.
coming up my.
Because here's my assumption, and I said
What's the
this.
concern, that we're racking up Reedy costs?
Well,
Lost me.
an issue is,
I'm not saying that they're not worth it.
Right, yeah.
They have been really,
Right.
really good.
Yeah.
in my professional opinion, we have a lot of organizational development issues to get extremely organized, reconciling accounts, getting policy in place.
Budget procedures.
It's just, yeah, and see, because we don't have anything documented. There's nothing to go by. We don't have I mean, every new council member ought to get a binder that goes through with tabs that shows you, same thing with the commissioner's office, right? Every department head on that. One of the issues, for example, Julie, that I've had a conversation off record about is that, you know, if we can go in and try to get all the, you know, addressing culture issues is that we're all going to make mistakes. And when somebody makes a mistake, that is a good thing. That is not a bad thing, all right? So like this whole Department of Labor issue, that's a good thing, okay? Because what we can do is learn from it. And we can learn from it and say, what do we need to do? What policy and processes do we need to put in place going forward that this doesn't ever occur again, right? Okay, so making mistakes is a good thing. That's the only way you're going to be able to learn. Just don't keep redoing the same mistake over and over again, right? Because that's insanity. At issue, though, one of my concerns, and I don't know how, I have no idea, but a question I have is that, you know, for us to come in, really leverage Reedy, leverage Susan, you know, and then we have the responsibility of having to make the decisions. Because, you know, Reedy's not going to make the decision, these are Susan. We got to make decisions. So as we can make decisions, and we put in policy, we put in processes, and we do everything we can to get really organized. So we know how much revenue is coming in, we know how much is going out, we know what the costs are, and we're living life in quadrant 2, important but not urgent. We no longer have any more fires, which is where I would really love to see us get to. Okay, no more fires, none of that. It's just important and urgent. We're always focused ahead, you know, kind of 18 months, right? But then all of a sudden we get everything squeaky clean and everything's organized, and now all of a sudden we got a brand new auditor. Or you got a brand new clerk, or you got a brand new sheriff, or you got a brand new highway supervisor, you got new commissioners, you got new council members. How in the world do we prevent new people coming in and screwing everything up? We don't.
Well, I mean, I think, Jim, on that point, I think.
Really, is that?
It's important for voters.
Government just,
If voters, I mean.
Why is it the General Assembly fixing that?
It's voting.
God, what a joke.
That's why you don't want people who have no idea what they're doing, no history of the county, no idea of what buildings we own, coming in and it takes them 3 years to figure out what's going on, right? You gotta have people who understand what's happening, and are paying attention, attending the meetings, and if they are, then they can come in and get to work. I mean, you just, waiting a year to be active is not good.
So anyway, that's all I've got to say about that. Is there any questions?
Scared off Gary, so.
One question. The excess cash reserve of 2.5 million seems very inflated to me, and it seems like there's something missing somewhere.
Well, you gotta go back to the
Right.
the 7334. See, you gotta go back up to the miscellaneous, the 2025 projected revenue under miscellaneous revenue.
Right.
And now you gotta go back to that next page, right? And you gotta go to the next page, because see, if you go to page 20, you got page 21, right? Of the Reedy financial statement. So if you take, in the second page under 2025 projection, if you take that 10,314,095 number, see it?
Where you at?
Page 2, or page 21 of the Reedy. It's just the Reedy.
Oh, 21, got it.
And then finance year 2025.
Okay.
And then down at the bottom where it says total revenues. So it's 10,314,095, right?
Right.
So then you go back to page 20.
But hold on, before you do that, go to the left and look at your 2024 actual,
Yeah, a little bit more.
which is 10.6. So if our 25 projected is 10,314, our 2024 actual was 10,630.
Right.
We're not getting an extra 2.5 million of cash reserve, so something's missing.
No, I see
somewhere.
what you're doing. Okay, hang on a minute. All right, but now, so, but all this is telling you is how much revenue we're gonna have in 2025, right?
Correct.
Which is a 10,314,095, right?
Right.
Okay.
So what I don't want to do is, like you said, put out there, oh, we got $2.5 million more than we thought we did. Because then,
Yeah, but it's already on YouTube.
I know, but then because that's what I'm saying, there's something's missing in that comparison.
That's an interesting point.
There's something, the 23, 1782,
Yeah.
where we're 1.8, 1.8 million
Yeah.
below on miscellaneous revenue, that came in somewhere.
Exactly. And that's where
And
my
it's not a
question to you
and
is
it's
like,
not a
have we
county
looked
clerk,
at the, I agree, and I assume Reedy's gonna do this for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, clean up the math and make sure the math is accurate.
Yeah.
Well, and,
Because I do not want to go into this budget year thinking
No.
we have a cushion, or everybody
No, I
else
see
thinking
what
we
you're
have a
saying.
cushion.
well, this is a
because we don't.
20, it's 25% operating.
Well,
so-
okay, wait a minute, hang on a second. I'm getting lost here for a second. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because let me flip back, make sure I understand it. Yeah, for 2025, we're projecting that we're gonna have excess revenues of 2.5 million, right?
Right,
For 2025, by
Right.
December. So now everybody comes in and wants to jump on it.
but if you look
But
at
if we go back and look at the
the
revenue,
actuals,
Right, we don't-
25 to 24, there isn't 2.5
and we
million.
don't know if these numbers are accurate.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's the problem.
Before we do that,
I
we
know,
gotta,
right.
we gotta
Yeah,
do
but
it.
So how do we do that?
We're gonna have to, I don't know, Julie, because what all they're doing, I think, Julie, you correct me if I'm wrong, all Reedy's doing is coming in and plugging into WOW and sucking the math out of WOW,
Yeah, well,
right?
I send them reports, yes.
Right, now the challenge with it, and please don't get defensive with me when I
I'm
make this
not
next
gonna get
statement,
defensive.
is what I do know about the auditor's office, is the auditor's office, A, number one, probably understaffed, B, number two, has had turnover, and number three, now you get into training and education of brand new employees, right? So I'm
And that's
not,
getting ready to happen again, don't just tell me.
see, yeah, it's,
Probably
it's,
over and over.
yeah, and see, and so,
It's
because
becoming
we
to
can't,
the point where, you
it's,
know, it's laughable.
yeah, yeah, and so, to me, when we've got that's the environment that's going, because it's, you're not the only department that's going on, but it's really critical in the auditor's office,
Yeah.
because if we
By
don't
the time I
have,
get somebody trained, they're gone.
yeah, and so I don't, my challenge with all of this, Darren, is I don't know how accurate this is. Okay, and the other thing I'll know as well is on the training and education inside the auditor's office, because I've had conversations in the past, is that you all will, any ACH money goes to the treasurer, correct? Electronically?
Yeah, it comes, well, we get sheets on it too.
Okay, but does the treasurer is notified first that it's coming in, correct?
We all-
And then you're kind of secondary?
Yes,
Okay. And then, but the challenge is you'll get check money in, you'll get non-ACH money coming in. And there are times when the non-ACH revenue comes in, that the staff within the auditor's office isn't clear on what fund that money needs to be received into,
correct.
which is an issue in and of
Allocated.
itself. You with me?
Clarify for the new guys what ACH is.
It's just the automatic clearinghouse. It's like when you transfer money from your brokerage account to your checking account.
Or it's when the state sends us money for things.
You get your social security check automatically deposited in your checking
Yeah.
account, that's ACH transfer. That's what that is.
Two things you need to actually consider, because, one, and I brought this up with Gary last night, I think you need to consider getting a outsourcing payroll. I've got a feeling I'm gonna leave my payroll here not too long from now, again.
Payroll's a good thing to think about
That's
doing that.
number one. Number two,
Okay.
we need to actually hire someone to go out to get our assets together, to figure out what all we have, what kind of ground, what the cost. We need an individual to do that,
Well, doesn't Reedy can do that?
a company.
Reedy can do that. can't
Reedy, I don't know if Reedy does
Yeah,
that.
Reedy
This
can.
is your capital,
So it's similar to what we were talking about before in terms of replacement value and all that stuff for all
Yeah.
our buildings?
the actual state needs an actual
Yeah.
cost on this stuff. I can't
they?
just.
Cost basis?
Yes, we can't just give them they want what it was like the courthouse. okay? They wanna know how much it was when we built it. What it is now, we don't have that kind of stuff, so.
I go to
mean,
your insurance and they can give you replacement values, maybe what we've insured them for,
It's-
but we can't give them appraisals or anything, so.
There you go.
yeah.
And
I think it's an
the state is
estimate.
requiring all this.
Well, that's towards that AAA
And
rating.
it should be,
Sure does, every bit of it.
if we're gonna turn it into the state, it needs to be correct.
Influences that.
Yeah, so that goes to the, maybe I'm gonna ask Reedy if, or you can ask Reedy, one of us talk to them, if they have form that, you know, capital assets, property, blah, blah, blah.
They do.
I'm sure they do, but do they have the correct numbers?
Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Who's gonna give you the numbers? Because Reading doesn't have all that stuff.
You can't just get the numbers from.
Reading.
there.
And how do you define capital asset?
However, whatever the county itself owns, all the buildings, all the material, or all the, like, highway, for example, all the trucks, anything that's over a certain amount of money
Yeah.
has to be included into that.
We can
All of our
set-
So all
land,
the parcels that we own over at Lake Lemon.
It's
all
not-
the ground,
well,
every piece
Oh,
of
the
it.
ground is too,
Yeah.
yeah, vacant land.
Yeah, because see, to me,
Yeah.
real assets is a building, land,
Yes,
you know,
that's
truck,
exactly what
a
it is,
car.
yes.
Durable.
Now, the only thing on the trucks and the cars, to me, I think of that as personal property, tangible property.
Yes.
Because you got real assets, tangible property,
have real
and then you get
property
into
assets.
investable assets, which
Yeah.
is the money sitting in the treasury, right?
And that's different from what you're looking
Yeah,
at.
because when you're looking at a balance sheet, you
Yeah,
got
I
your real assets, tangible
We
personal
need to
property,
know-
investable assets, and then your liabilities, right? Because that's what a balance sheet is, a net worth statement.
90 point, well,
All right.
I'd say if you're gonna do trucks and stuff like that, we could probably do that. But when we're talking about the ground, and we're talking about the buildings and having to know what it cost at the beginning to the end now, or what it's worth now.
I look at the assessments too.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked
The
into
assessments
this,
aren't gonna tell you what it's actually worth.
You'd have to add to it. but
I
yeah.
looked into this in '23 because I kind of wanted to know what the hell I wanted to try to put together a balance sheet. But what I got into is the challenge with like the deeds. All the deeds should be titled, I would think,
They're not
Brown
titled.
County Commissioners.
They're not all titled
They're
the
all-
same.
And they're not all titled the same.
Yeah.
So trying to do a search, you can't do a search
Yeah.
because they're all.
You'd have to
deeded.
know what all they're titled.
I know.
To do the
Yeah,
search.
yeah. So because that screws it up with the assessor's office, GIS.
Yeah.
The assessor's GIS don't
That's
jive.
exactly right.
It's a mess.
Mhm. But I don't have control of
Well,
it.
you don't have the time, you don't have the time and energy to do it. There's no way. It's too big of a job.
But when the state's asking you for accurate numbers and you,
Well, let me talk to, let me call Jerry.
there's no way to
And let me
come up with
run that
accurate
by him
numbers.
and see what kind of response. I mean, if we're gonna do that, I
I'm sure
would rather
they
have a
have that.
certified public accountant do it. Right? I'd rather have an
I'm sure they've
accountant.
got a sheet on it, but
Yeah,
they're
but somebody
not,
has to do the work.
yeah, they're not qualified. I mean, they may be qualified, but they're not gonna go out to these properties and say, hey, this is what this is worth now, and this is what this is worth now. That's not their job. That's an appraiser's job.
No, but I think what he's.
I know what he's saying.
Yeah, the disconnect between, he's saying, find those properties, just
Right, exactly.
start by finding those properties.
Look at that.
Insurance company's got all those.
No, see, that assumptions, I don't agree with.
That is an assumption,
The
that they
insurance
do
company
not.
is insuring all of our property.
Well, yeah. no,
That's
they
your
don't.
assumption.
Not all
Your
big,
assumption
like,
is that we even got insured.
Oh, you're talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about ground and everything.
Yeah.
Now, they do have all of our building, we have all of our
This
buildings.
is not that complicated. It's really not.
No, but it's finding who's gonna put the time and energy to do the job.
It's the auditor's
Can you do it?
responsibility,
Can you
right?
drop
I
your-
mean, It's on your office. I mean,
We've got it.
She doesn't have the staff.
it's not accurate. I think the state would tell you, it's not, they're not asking for an appraisal of every piece of equipment and property we own. It's an estimate of the value, and we've got insurance the values we can use, we've got assessment values we can use. It doesn't have to be
Yeah, but who's
perfect.
gonna go through and do all that work?
It's the auditor's office.
We are undermanned and understaffed.
Yeah, I mean, it's always.
There's no way in hell I'm gonna
She's
do
not
it.
gonna.
It's always
there's no-
been my
That's
friend.
unrealistic to even put that request
And
in.
especially when I'm losing more and more people every
Well,
day.
it-
So-
it's in the auditor's office that's
Figure it out.
responsible, and if you've gotta, like, figure out somebody to assign it to, or you need help with, you gotta.
Who am I gonna
gotta-
assign it to? Everybody else's business.
I
God,
know.
you
So
tell
don't
me.
do it then.
I can't.
Okay,
That's what I'm telling you. I need somebody to do it.
okay, well. You got a budget, maybe you need to hire somebody.
Oh,
Should
good.
have the money in the budget to do it. All right, so,
I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying.
You want us to authorize more money for you to hire somebody to do the asset plan, is that what you're
hey
asking?
Julie, can I take that on and let me go
Yeah,
try
you
to ask
go
some
for it.
questions, let me look
Thank you.
around and kind of just,
I would appreciate it.
let's see what I
because
can dig
it's
up
not
and
something
uncover and
Yeah, there's a few steps involved
and
before we get
see,
to what you
yeah,
said.
because I'll make
Part
some
of-
phone calls, let me make some phone calls, talk to some people,
Thank you.
see what we can do to try to get organized, to put, what needs to be done. It needs to be, it should have been done, and it should be updated on an
It should
ongoing
be
basis.
correct. I don't
Right,
like
right,
turning in
right.
information
It's not
to
correct,
the,
it's, none of
to
it's
the
correct.
state that's
and
like
it's- Right.
half-baked.
It's incomplete, you mean?
Yeah,
Sure it
or
is.
half-baked, you know.
Well, it's like, for example, let me ask you this, when I started doing this in '23, you know, I found out, and supposedly the story is that when we had the flood of '08, Lake Lemon got hammered. And then the county ended up picking up parcels out there, and there's several parcels out there the county owns.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, what liability does the county have with those parcels if somebody gets hurt on those parcels?
I'm surprised to hear we don't insure our vacant land.
Yeah, but are we
I think the
even
commissioners should look at our
insured? And those are
insurance.
assumptions. The problem with assumptions is we better,
Well, commissioners deal with insurance,
But-
you guys should look at our
I'm sure
vacant
they
land.
do.
a whole boatload of stuff, they're overwhelmed.
What they know of.
Just like I'm
What they don't
overwhelmed.
realize
Well,
we have.
So,
We know
Do
what
we
we
have a
know,
general liability
and
policy
this
that
is not-
covers this?
well, we put it together. Scott, then go get it
I
done.
thought we did.
It's not my role, it's not my responsibility, we're focused on the budget, which I'd like to talk about next.
Okay. All right,
So we don't insure
Whenever you're ready.
properties as.
Okay, one quick question, she wants, she's talking about outsourcing payroll, you seem to feel that's value, got some value, what do we, any thoughts on that?
And you might think about the timekeeping system again too.
We need to research it. We need to research it. We don't have enough
Can
information.
you get some resources on that?
Yeah,
We're gonna have to research it.
Yeah, that's where we're at then, so,
Let's just research it and see if it has any merit and what it's gonna cost.
all right, Scott, budget.
So, legislative items,
go ahead.
we need money, obviously, per Jim's report. The gate fee bill has passed through House committees and full readings, and now it's at the Senate, it's passed through the Senate committee, and we've got another committee or two hearings to do. It's looking good, it would bring in 80 to 120,000 a year for public safety, so there's another, call it 100. The innkeeper's tax is also moving forward.
I gotta go outside and call this Better shower.
We've made several cuts. We passed all the way through the House. We've made it all the way through the Senate committees after some tough testimony. And the 3% increase is now actually this afternoon being heard on second reading on the Senate floor. As I've emailed all of you, I advocated strongly for the council's position of, being able to make public safety eligible for those funds. I put our best case forward with the Senate committee. They grilled me on it, and they were not willing to allow us to use it for public safety, nor amend it into the bill, which they could have done. Since that hearing, strangely, Park County is being allowed to use their innkeeper's tax for public safety, and then their bill has been amended, kind of what I was advocating for. Parks has been amended to allow them to use it for public safety. So, and then immediately after me, the Orange County, I believe it was a commissioner from Orange County, suggested they wanted to use their food and beverage tax collections for public safety. And so it's a pretty strange situation, right? And as I've said all along, it is completely out of our hands, and the legislature can do anything they want to do. And in this case, they want to give public safety funds to Park County out of innkeepers, but not us as of yet. And so they can change their minds.
doesn't make sense.
It didn't seem to make sense to me either, but one thing I know, can tell you for sure, is I've advocated fiercely for that to occur and put everything on the table, was very upfront with them, and they did not want to do it. And so what we do know is that what is estimated to be 750,000 to 1.1 million a year in collections off of this new 3% increase is heavily supported by tourism leaders. Okay, and that was not, starting off, there were questions about what the money would be used for, how it could be used, whether we needed it, all kinds of just questions about that. And Gary has been hosting a meeting. I think we had our third meeting last month, with the tourism leaders. So CBC president, CBB president, some Music Center board members, key players in the tourism, large hotel owners, tourist home management companies, are all in these series of meetings. We had the sheriff there, some ambulance folks, are saying they fully support a 3% increase to go towards the eligible areas of use of Parks and Rec, quality of life, economic development, and tourism infrastructure. And there are projects under those categories, those 4 buckets, that we as a group said, hey, these are good examples, such as ball field lights at Parks and Rec, county fairground improvements, historic Pioneer Village grounds improvements, sidewalks like, to the fairgrounds from town, or the courthouse sidewalk. Those weren't specifically on that list, but things like that are all fully supported by those tourism leaders. And so what the group has suggested in our last meeting is that we look at ways to use, they understand our public safety concerns. I mean, Gary and I, Darren, you've been in these meetings as well. We've been advocating as sheriff for the need for public safety services to cover the public safety demands of the tourism industry, particularly in the state park. And what the tourism group is suggesting we do is look for ways that we can, where we're currently spending money from the county's budgets on tourism-related expenses, capital investments, etc., and look at using the additional innkeeper's tax money to fund those tourism-related expenses like Parks and Rec fairgrounds type stuff. And as a way to free up money for public safety in the county's budget. In other words, we stop paying for tourism-related stuff out of the county's budget and pay more for public safety with those funds. And so that was their suggestion. I know there's been some talk about that on council as well, but there's $100,000 for the gate fee, new money for public safety that's not in our estimates that we see here, and then potentially another couple hundred, maybe $250,000 for public safety by shifting money out of our county budget, focusing on tourism, using a future potential innkeeper's tax fund for that, and driving our tax dollars towards public safety instead. So there's a few $100,000 there, new revenue, I think, that we could maybe capture.
Minor correction to what you said. There was some sentiment in these meetings that, they don't want to contribute any of the innkeeper's tax to it until we cut our budget.
So they
just shift our budget.
That's right. They had suggestions and concerns that we took down, and of course, they want to know what's in it for them, right? But they also want to cut, or they want the county to be very efficient with the use of its funds. They want and this came up at a recent meeting, Gary, they want us to consider an easier way for them to pay their innkeeper's taxes online through the state versus local. Currently, we're paying a full-time person with benefits to spend a lot of time collecting their innkeeper's tax dollars, and it's all by paper apparently and mail. And the innkeepers would like us as a way to save is consider allowing the state to collect that, which is free to us, I think. And we can look
it's free to us, as was pointed out by the treasurer at our council meeting before the last one, that what we would miss out on is 30 days of interest on it, but that 30 days of interest is so minuscule. It would, having an extra employee process all that paperwork doesn't doesn't equate the interest that we would make on it in a 30-day period of time. It's not even close.
So the other thing we could see out of that
It would be a
is,
huge benefit.
Are you saying there's a government employee that's processing innkeeper's tax collections?
Yes,
Who?
in the treasurer's office.
You're kidding.
No, it's
we
part
just
of- it's
increased
part
it
of
to full time.
Okay,
Part of the treasurer's office.
These are people, every month they have to file them. They say it takes them 15 minutes to do statement, it takes them, they have numerous paper sheets they have to fill out and mail in or whatever.
They have one paper sheet per month per property. So if somebody's got 5 rental properties, they've got, 12, 60,
We talked about
60
this
pieces
last-
of paper that have to be filled out by
Well,
hand
They don't need to get in the weeds with
with
it,
a
but
check
we're,
mailed into
the treasurer's office, we got a person that's doing
The
this.
treasurer's office has an employee who opens those envelopes and processes.
Yeah, so they've suggested things like that and trying to think of other ways they wanted us to be more efficient and we need to, we need to, and that's what we're doing here today, but
And part of their suggestion from part of the group was we should just go ahead and max out our income tax to cover it.
the committee did suggest, instead of using innkeeper's tax for the Senate committee that I went in front of, suggested, when I gave the case for using it for public safety, of course not for public safety, they said they wanted us instead to max out our public safety lit. And so I've done some research. So in other words, instead of Arturas paying for the expense of their public safety now,
They want
you and I
They want
are
to,
going
they
to have
want
to
to
pay
force
for
us
it.
to put it on the
So-
citizens.
Even more than we already are, which I made the point that, with all due respect, Senator, we'd like to create a more efficient taxing mechanism by not taxing our residents for the services of others. We'd rather allow them to contribute to their, they didn't fight.
And
So,
I'm currently sitting here trying to keep my pressure cooker top from moving.
yeah, it was hard, but they want us to look, and so here's the other thing we need to know, and this is interesting. This is interesting. For years, we've been told, unless I'm not remembering this correctly, for years we've been told that we are maxed out in our income tax rate, okay? Where that we've maxed it out. We're at 2.532% right now.
And you know that the state of Indiana is 3.05.
Yeah.
Okay, so our income tax, I pay more in income tax than I do in property tax.
So,
So I don't want to pay any more in income tax.
I don't want to pay any more anything, but, and I want to,
I don't want to force our outlying county residents to pay
No.
for emergency
Thank
services
you
to
very
go into
much.
the park.
Thank you very
That
much.
makes the state,
Right.
I got to comment.
yeah, I know.
Makes the state.
And so I made this
Buttload of
case,
cash.
and
we don't get any of it.
Yeah.
The state doesn't make them vote on
But,
cash.
and add to this, Scott, not to interrupt your train of thought here, so hold your train of thought. We've got our net assessed value taking a huge jump. Okay, and I don't think our net assessed value is taking a jump because we've got a lot of residential real estate being added in the county.
a lot of new homes with values of all.
Yeah, but again,
Gone up. Yeah.
again, Scott, be careful with your assumptions. I don't know, I have no idea how many new residential homes that are owner occupied that have been built over the last 10 years. I don't know. There's no data on that in this county. I can't find it. I've asked for it. Don't have it, don't know it. Number two, the other thing I don't know, and I've talked to the assessor's office on this, okay? Because it's very difficult trying to validate this, is how much real estate over the last 10 years is being bought up by those that reside outside the county. And I have a sneaking suspicion, and this is just my theory. I don't have any, so everything I'm getting ready to say is very subjective, anecdotal, and no evidence to support it.
Well, then don't say it.
Well, no, I'm gonna say it because I think the theories, if I can get the data, I think the theory is accurate. Essentially what we've got going on is we've got this tourism sector in this county that drives the innkeeper's tax. The innkeeper's tax then is reinvested back into marketing, which attracts those from outside of the county to come and check out Nashville, which is good. I don't have a problem with that. But while that's going on, those that are in that mass affluent market are realizing what an exceptional value the real estate is in Brown County. And they're buying it up. And not only are they buying it up, but they're buying it up and they realize that they can come up and buy up real estate, so I can buy a $300,000 house, throw another 300 grand in it, and I can immediately go to the BZA, get it rezoned, and now I've got another tourist home, which the hospitality sector likes because that continues to drive up the revenue off of the innkeeper's tax. If that is in fact what's going on, if that's what Brown County wants, fine. But in the next 25 to 30 years, I'll be gone, but this will be a transient county, and you'll have very few people who are full-time residences because they're not gonna be able to afford to live here. It's just all there is to it. And that's what's driving up the assessed value.
So I think
That's my theory.
It's already an issue.
Well,
It is already.
I think it is. And
Why can't we force the state police and the Department of Natural Resources to respond to runs on state property?
I don't know. We do mutual aid a lot with them and they do with us, and so it's gotta be a partnership, I think.
Sounds like it's more partner than ship.
Yeah, well, I think we'd like to find another way. So here's the other thing, Jim, and you may like this, based on your previous point. The tourism leaders we've talked to want to improve workforce housing in our county, potentially with innkeepers' tax dollars. That's on our list. The tourism leaders are, it seems to be an agreement that we have a workforce housing / affordable housing issue, and they want to utilize some of these resources to try to impact that.
Okay. Probably a good thing this is a YouTube show.
Oh, there's a show? Oh. man,
Well, it's on
that sounds-
YouTube,
Oh,
so we can
okay,
play
yeah.
it, so everything I'm
Yeah.
saying is out there.
You can monetize.
Yeah, monetize.
Don't give me that yet.
That's what happens in
Yeah.
Thornton, one of the Ocean County chapters. They were so violent the first thing, and they fought it, they said, oh, we need that, we need that.
Yeah. And this, again, this is very subjective, very anecdotal, it's just based off my experience and a lot of emotion in this statement. You know, of the 9 years that I've been actively involved in this community, and, you know, and I love everybody, because the people here are all nice people, they're good people, right? But I am absolutely emotionally bankrupt with this affordable housing, economic development, okay, comprehensive plan, all right? So, and the reason I'm emotionally bankrupt with it is what I said earlier, is that, you know, if y'all want to do that, fine. And then pardon my English, let's shit or get off the pot, okay? If you want to have affordable housing, you want workforce housing, fine. But at the very core, Nashville, we got Nashville, we've got the Gnawbone, we got Helmsburg, okay? And we have got to get real serious about wastewater treatment, period, okay? And then here's the other question I have, is that even if we had the wastewater treatment, so, and when I think of wastewater treatment, I think, you know, why would, you know, do you take wastewater treatment, consolidate that under the Brown County water utility bucket? Or do you create another separate utility company, right? Or do you combine the two? Don't know, questions. But what I do know is that, you know, this wastewater treatment issue has to be able to operate in an economy of scale, and it has to be able to cash flow itself. All right, now, we're not there yet because we don't have enough hookups, right? What I do know is this Brown County Regional Sewer District issue, you know, that's a $50 million project. They're running into issues with the state revolving fund, the SRF, in getting funding to be able to do the Helmsburg plan, be able to put the pipeline in from Bean Blossom to Helmsburg, right? But if we want to add housing, you're going to have the infrastructure, like it or not, number one. And number two, the issue is, you know, how many houses do you want to build? Do you want to build 1,000? Do you know that if you built 1,000 homes over the next 20 years in Brown County, that you're only going to increase the population by 2,500 people? That's it. 16%. We're 15.5 now. It would push you to about 18,000. Because the national average for houses per, people per house is 2.5. Now, maybe that might go to 3, I don't know. But you're not gonna increase the population much. But if you added 1,000 homes in this county, the next big question is, where are you gonna put them? And then let me ask you the third question. Let's say we find a 50-acre parcel that we don't have to bulldoze any trees down, that's not in a flood zone, and we want to put 160 homes in. And we find a developer that's got $70 million. So the developer's got $70 million in cash, they're looking to make an investment. They want to buy the real estate, put the infrastructure in, throw up 160 houses, and then they want to sell them as fast as they can. Because why would I want to lock down $60 to $70 million in a real estate development where I can't get my money back out of it? So I better be able to sell them pretty quick. And then lastly, I've been told that even if you had a developer that had the $60 to $70 million to build 160 homes on 50 acres, are we set up as a county government to do the permitting process and the inspections? Because I'm assuming the primary would be planning and zoning and definitely the health department, right?
Correct.
Do we have the staff? Do we have the training? What's the permitting process look like? How easy is it for a developer to come in and build homes? Or is it a complete hassle? I don't know. But I'm burnt out with this subject because if the community in a whole really embraces this whole housing, economic, and then the other thing, economic development, please explain to me what that is, okay, because that's about a broad category, about this broad. Are we talking about retail trade? Are we talking about some C-stores? Because I think it's highly unlikely that you're gonna find a publicly traded company that's gonna build a widget factory in Bean Blossom, okay, and employ 400 people to build widgets. Because number one, I doubt if we have the power grid.
We don't have the infrastructure.
We don't have the baseline power to even have provide enough electricity. We don't have the water, pipe's not big enough, right? And we don't have services. And then you're good. And then here's and lastly, I'll be quiet. I'm gonna finish with this. I am tired of hearing this assumption that we have to have affordable housing, economic development, comprehensive plan, because we want to increase the tax base. Okay, that's a false assumption. You can increase the tax revenue, and this idea that somehow government's going to keep a lid on expenses is a joke. Okay, because you just said it right there. How many different deputies are we going to have to hire to make sure that we got 160 unit out there on State Road 45, just east of Bloomington.
Well, if we have a widget factory out there.
And then we got a widget factory.
We're gonna have to have a paid fire department.
Yeah, so this idea that we're gonna increase the tax base, lower the tax rate, wrong, because government's gonna
Jim,
be
I
watching.
don't think that's the goal. I think the goal is to give people places where they can actually.
Then tell me how many homes you wanna build and let's get it
I
done.
don't have to have.
Tell me
that
how many
number.
homes we wanna do,
No,
then let's
I don't
stop
have to have
talking
that
about it
number.
and let's
And
get something
It's
done.
not county's money either, it's the private sector's money. And if there's no demand, then they're not gonna do it, which they haven't been. So it's about just giving people a place to live where they can actually afford to stay.
Okay, then build some
That's
houses.
what it's
Y'all
about.
been talking about this for years.
It's not y'all,
You're
it's not
talking
me,
about it,
it's
goes on and
not,
on
you
and
got
on.
lots of questions with not many answers, but I mean, you
Yeah.
need to find answers.
No, I'm not gonna do anything because I'm not a developer.
So you don't have to do anything, but I think there's a lot of interest.
But I
in
will
people
tell you
being
this,
able to
I
afford
will
to
tell
live
you
in the
this,
county.
if you really want to do that, then you're gonna have to put some money into the Brown County Regional Sewer, and the government's gonna have to help fund that.
I mean,
Because unless that 13-mile collection
Yeah.
system goes in.
am I reading you right? You don't want anything to do with housing?
No, I'm not saying that. If we
Oh.
want to build houses, let's build some houses.
So you do want to build some houses?
Yeah, if,
Oh,
Okay.
no, that's-
But you have no idea how to do it, okay. I got you.
well, let me ask you a question, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, I'm just not following you.
Who in
Yeah.
Brown County, I've never done a $70 million housing project. I've never
That's
built
probably not
a $30 million apartment building before. I have no commercial,
experience.
no
Yeah.
residential,
Yeah.
commercial,
Yeah.
real estate investment
Great.
experience, none.
Great.
How many people in the county actually do?
I don't know, it only takes one.
Barry Herring, he's the only one I can think of
Not
that's got any experience,
Not residential.
commercial.
He's building.
Mike's got stuff.
Yeah. So we got a
There's
group of
plenty of
those people together and says, what do you need to do this? Now, I keep getting vibes that we are averse to people building here and doing that kind of stuff. We do not make it easy. And it's like, well, that's why we don't have it.
And Scott, let me tell you,
Zoning rules.
as long as the housing is residential housing, then I'm in favor of it. If it's tourism housing,
is not
residential. I'm talking about residential, you're a citizen of Brown County, owner
Yeah, I mean,
occupied.
that's what.
You
that's
got
what
your
housing
kids in our schools,
Yeah.
you live here,
Yeah.
you're a resident of Brown County.
Housing.
Yeah, it's residential
Yeah.
housing, not housing for somebody to roll in and live 6 months out of the year because their primary residence is in Florida.
Housing.
But we also only have so much control. We have control over that while we're sitting council and while they're sitting commissioners.
Yeah, but do you
As soon
know?
as council and commissioners roll over, somebody can come in and change that and say, okay, we can.
I know,
you know,
I just,
I'm just saying, there's only
I know.
so much control.
right, but like on the tourist mills, all right? What I know for a fact, the commissioners could pass an ordinance and say, okay, if you want to buy a house in Brown County and you want to turn it into a tourist rental, fine, you got to live in it for 5 years first. And it's got to be a primary residence for 5 years.
So I didn't
That would
get us
put
on
stock.
a housing side note,
But it
but
puts
they're
it up.
interested in it. I mean, and that's the point, and they want to be helpful, and I think our community as a whole broadly knows we have a problem with
Well, let's
housing.
do something.
So
about
the
it.
point of this affordable housing, just to support the school system so the
No,
students.
I mean, it's part of it,
It's part of it.
part of it, because you can't.
So most places, if they lose student enrollment, they close schools.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
they've been closed
that's what we also.
give notice.
Well, I know, I'm not, I don't have any kids, so I'm not aware of
My
it.
This
son's
Woods
elementary
has to
school.
bring in people from
Where's that?
three different counties.
National
to work
Elementary.
here. They
They
can't
shut
get
the National Elementary
Yeah, now it's a.
Stuff like
something
that.
else.
Those
What do they
people
do
would
with
probably
kids?
have families to
Shipped
work
them
here.
to,
and
But most of those people building a house, they're not gonna be able, they're still not gonna be able to afford
Well, there's,
anything.
there's restructure.
Yeah, we have 3 left.
3 left before they consolidate the whole thing.
So how much with mortgage rates and with, the average cost of a home, how many people this day and age, I would assume most people that would move here would not be of the professional status or educational status to make enough money to buy
Here's the
a
difference.
$400,000 or
Here's the
$500,000
difference.
home.
We're not talking about people moving here from wherever. We're talking about people who have lived here for their whole lives, raised families here, who now can no longer afford to stay here.
Well, that's because property tax keeps going up.
You're coming to Key West or Gatlinburg, everything becomes.
People are being driven out.
everybody gets pushed
It's
out.
the
It's
local,
ostracism. We're not
local
ostracism.
housing is a problem. And
No. Tim, what is it?
Gentrification.
Gentrification is what's going on.
so we're getting older and our schools
Yeah.
population is dropping. So anyway, I do need, speaking of school, it's closed today and I gotta get out of here.
That's
Storms.
Storm.
Yeah.
The one other point on that is, I had people in Dean Blossom, one guy up there owns from the road, whatever. He says he would build a gas station and a hotel there. So you've got plant area, now comes in the 3% tax rate. And then somebody else has said they'd build an apartment complex across from Brownies. Now, there's opportunity, 3%, this is better than our 1% tax that we get off of our residents. We don't have a 3% tax rate out there.
Yeah, I've got, I mean,
Commercial is charged 3% tax rate. Residential is 1%.
Yeah, the cap.
Farm is 2%.
Right.
And so we don't have much in the way of 3% tax rate. That makes a difference. If you have a piece of property that's going to only generate 1%.
Residential versus commercial.
so real quick, I didn't get to this, back to the committee's suggestion that we raise income tax and how we've had, been told for years that we're at our cap. And working with Reedy to do some analysis after hearing that from the committee, they looked at our income tax rate and we've got a 0.5% property tax relief leverage in our income tax. We said, hey, we're going to do this 0.5 income tax, property tax relief to offset property tax expenses. And apparently that Reedy is telling us that 0.5% out of our 2.5% does not count towards our cap for income tax. And so we've actually got, it appears, and Reedy's looked at this, about $2 million in additional income tax collections that if the council wanted to increase that, as the Senate committee suggested for public safety, we would do that.
So it'd be nice to pay more money.
You would pay more money. Yeah. And it's never something I thought we've been interested in. We're trying to decrease, not
We need to
increase.
decrease income tax to invite people to live here as residents.
And so, anyway, that's that. We do have that ability, but I don't know that the interest would, for me,
Okay,
We gotta find a way.
let's assume we have 800 or 8,000 employed residents of the county. We bump it up $2 million, it's gonna be an extra $250 on each tax-paying.
Yeah, no, but the school just took $500 out
No,
of my
I know, I'm
pocket.
saying, that's
So
what
that's
it's,
$750.
no, I'm not saying it's only gonna be, I'm saying it's going to add that.
I mean,
Yeah.
because the question
And I
is,
don't,
how much do I really want to pay to live in Brown County?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, because I don't get any service. The only service I get, highway department.
well, that was one of the reasons I moved
That's it.
here,
And Brant County Water.
because there aren't the services of Johnson County. I don't have to pay the cost
Yeah, I
of
don't-
the services
I
of
don't need
Johnson
any
County.
government
I moved here to
services.
live in the woods
Yeah.
and accepted the fact that I don't have the services.
Right.
I like it that
I
way.
do too, so I just, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, do you accept the motion to adjourn?
Okay, real quick before we do that, can we, I don't know if this is illegal or legal or not legal.
Sounds like a bad idea already.
No voting.
Illegal is a sick word. I got a pound of pot out in the car.
Oh, good Lord.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Please, continue.
All right.
It's a
Just taking forward to get organized.
I'm out of here.
You're right there.
I'm gonna recap real quick. We got the home, what's the guy called?
Owner's representative.
I'd like to get some closure on the owner's representative, all right? And I'd like to see that subject come up on the regular meeting, on the agenda, so we can discuss it and deal with it. And, and we just make the council, we fit it underneath the council, it's the council's advisory, okay? So think about it.
What are you talking about?
Owner's representative over building projects,
Yeah.
a professional person who brings in professional services skills. that kind of thing.
And, just looks at what's being
Oversight
built.
represents us to people like DLZ or Lockmiller or whatever.
And to me, if he can keep us from getting ripped off by the private sector and taken advantage of and exploited, that could be,
Jim, is there a reason why commissioners can't just hire that person and work with them?
I don't know. But anyway,
Why would they?
I don't know, but should we, if you,
So they don't want to have that oversight?
I keep those vibes, that's all.
I mean, it can save a lot of money, it seems to me.
so anyway.
Well, there's
And then
one
the
set
second
right
thing-
there, why don't you ask them?
All right. And the second and most important issue is, what was your takeaway from allowing Gary to send a memo to the departments requesting that they keep their Form 1s at the same level or below 2025's?
And,
Because Gary needs your authorization to do
I mean,
that.
why 2025s?
Where else?
Well, what are you gonna use?
2024?
Or go
Well,
lower.
then go find it, I don't have it, okay, and I ain't gonna go do the work to get it, okay, it's last year's lower.
Lower.
Yeah.
Man,
It's a little bit lower, but do you really wanna put a squeeze on it, okay?
it's not about what I want to do, it's what's best for the county.
I understand that, but what's realistic?
Have you looked at that, I guess is my question. You're suggesting 25, I just want to make sure we've,
What he's talking about is just keeping
keep it.
keeping the
The
next
same.
budget the same as this one.
Yeah, that's all.
no, I understand the concept, it's just why?
Why?
Because
Why
we
this
only have
one,
300 grand left.
Why not
Well, then
less?
cut it, tell them you want, it can only be at 90%.
I mean, the number just needs to work. I mean, that's my point. It can't just be like, let's just do 25. It's like, okay, if we got 300 cushion based on 25, and that 300's got to eat up all the inflation, all the pay
Right.
increases. Do you feel comfortable making that recommendation?
I don't know what else, it's your vote, not me, I'm one person, okay?
You're the
So
one
don't-
recommending it,
don't-
though.
Well, I'm just suggesting that's what we do.
Okay.
We need to do something.
It's a recommendation.
It's a
If it comes down to the
recommendation.
budget process,
And we can't make a decision today on it, but I'm
Well, if
thinking
you
we
do your
probably,
job at the budgets, then we wouldn't have this problem right now, would we?
agree.
so,
Have
I
you-
mean, if you want to make it, if you want to make that number be at 95% of the 2025, you can do that.
I just think it needs to be a number that makes sense for our budgeting.
Well, then pick one, what makes sense?
And if we've got 300,000 in cushion, just having it put in front of me this morning, so I haven't had a lot of time to look at
I'll
it.
look at it, right, you don't have to make a decision today, but
But that sounds pretty tight to me.
All right, so can we put this on the agenda for April's meeting? And we need to make a decision, one way or the other, right? So that Gary can send out the memos, right, Gary?
Yeah.
Because you're like the chief and I'm an Indian.
Yeah, and it should fit into
Keeping,
our,
I put keeping budgets at 2025 or less.
Or less, yeah.
or less,
Yeah.
yeah.
Guideline.
Yeah, or less.
Max of.
Preferably less.
That's the max.
Yeah, the max,
25.
you language that.
But we think we may need you to, right, in certain areas,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, which is what I'm saying, we can 25 is a guideline, and we got to cut further.
So we're gonna, can we put that on the agenda for April's meeting?
Yes.
She did,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, my job's done.
Anything else? Did we adjourn?
Second.
He's been dying to do that.
I just got, I got seven. I think we got through what we needed.
Thanks for looking at that. I think that was great.
Yeah.
Yes.